Hey yo, everybody, welcome back to Spooky Tangents. On this mic is Honcho Jack, and on that mic is Jack Honcho.
Yeah, yeah. What's up, everybody? It's the Halloween. It's the Film Tangents Halloween Spectacular 2024. We're back. We had a Halloween special last year. Came out on Halloween. We're gonna do it to open spooky season this year. So, but hey, we've all survived a year. The show, no one's canceled us. No one, YouTube hasn't canceled the program over the year.
Yeah,
So that's a good thing to have not happened.
yeah, we're
Uh,
still around.
yeah,
Everybody, we're still around. You're not getting rid of us.
yeah, or
So
Apple
as long as you
Podcasts for
tune
that
in,
matter.
yeah, as long as you tune into this channel around this time, although
Yeah,
we're not always on.
yeah,
But
yeah,
as long as we're here, we're here.
yeah. Things have been
Um,
hectic lately, but we've kind of settled back into our regular flow here. So hopefully it stays that way for the foreseeable future.
yeah,
Coming up on the end of the season anyway, though. At the end of
yeah,
the this season of film tangents, but
yeah. We have a couple more months. That'll be that for the tangents.
yeah, exactly. Film Tangents Halloween Special 2024. The topic for this Halloween special. So last year we did a our top 10 horror films of all time. We
Yeah.
went back and forth, traded each our top 10. This year we're just going to go into scariest media moments, scary movie scenes,
hmm hmm
shit that freaked us out, made us shit our pants, or
I have a
figuratively or
good,
literally.
dude. I have good stories. I have good stories. I've been preparing for
Yeah.
this because I know you told me about this.
hmm
So I've been trying to dig through my childhood.
Yeah. That's what I want to start with, dude, is childhood scares. So when you're a kid, generally you're not allowed to watch horror movies. You're not supposed to be. But things in non-horror movies might scare you. So that's something I think we start with that and then we get into the dude, my list is bigger than I thought it would be. I say we keep it informal when we just riff, dude, because there's no way we're gonna be able to like just go back and forth and hit all the bullet points in
Yeah,
totality, I guess. So,
yeah.
dude, when you were a kid, what was some shit that scared you, man, in media?
Let me think. I mean, this is funny because I know we're starting with like non-specific, like scary things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, the number one non-specific scary thing that scared me. Um, Let me do a little bit of a cliffhanger here. Everybody, don't forget to like and subscribe to
Yeah.
the channel. If you enjoy listening to us, like and subscribe. Give us a like. We love seeing likes on these videos.
Yeah.
Subscribe to the channel. We're here for the passion and the love of the tangents and nothing else.
Yeah.
Follow us on Apple Podcasts. We're on there. Give us 5 stars if you love the channel. Give us 5 stars. And as you listen to us, kind of going back and forth about our stories, share your stories with us, and we'll love to hear them.
Yeah, comment below. What was scariest movie scenes for you guys? Scary
Mhm.
shit that just scenes that unsettled you, chilled you to the bone, made you sleep with the lights on.
So I guess for my non-specific scary stuff that scared me, one of the earliest memories that I have, and maybe this doesn't count. You tell me. I watched the I think 2000s movie starring Mark
Oh, I
Wahlberg,
know what you're gonna say. Yeah,
directed. Dude, if you know it, say it. Say what it is.
the Planet of the Apes, right? I remember you
Yes,
talking about it.
yes,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes, dude. It it marked me. That's the only way that I can say it. Like it was so strange. I remember I just sat down and it was the 2000s Planet of the Apes, directed by Tim Burton, with Mark Wahlberg.
Hmm.
And that movie is just I have to actually like rewatch that movie because that movie is so like strange.
Yeah.
Because I remember watching that movie and being like, these are ape people. Like, they're like in that movie, they are like advanced to the point where they wear clothes and they like, they do all these things. Let me open it actually. Planet of the
Yeah.
Apes
That, that
2000.
Tim
Because I want,
Burton is the director.
yes, just because I want to be specific with what I'm saying.
Yeah, I saw that one once. I
Yeah.
definitely like the original a lot better. I never thought much of that that
dude,
one.
and this is a science fiction movie. Came out in 2001. You know, PG-13. It's not a horror film, and it's not like an R-rated movie or
Yeah.
anything like that. But the thing is that there's actors here that look. It's like this uncanny valley thing. I mean, dude, you can go on Google Images and like look at the pictures for this movie.
Yeah.
Like, look at what Helena Bonham Carter. Look at what she looks like the ape version of her in that movie.
Yeah.
And they have an ape version of Tim Roth, who plays this ape named Thade.
Oh, that's Tim Roth? Holy shit.
Yeah.
He's the guy with
So
like the
it's
gray beard or whatever?
yes.
Whoa, I
Tim
never knew
Roth.
that, dude.
But dude, again, there's like this weird uncanny valley with this movie. Like, imagine being a
Yeah.
kid. I think this movie came out in 2001. In 2001, I was like 3, 4, But I didn't see it in 2001. I saw it maybe when I was like 6, or maybe I saw it in 2003, because it was on television by that point. They were just airing it.
Yeah.
And imagine just being a little kid, and just watching a movie where your cognitive like I guess like association of apes is that they're just fairy animals. I love Tarzan. I saw them in Tarzan.
Yeah.
They're fairy. They're just this furry like fun animals. They're and they do funny things, and they eat ants and shit out of each other, and they go wow. That was like my
And they
fucking
throw shit at each other.
exactly. And so then the next thing I do is watch a movie where they're walking around, talking like people,
Yeah.
wearing like armor. There's like, this guy's a fucking like dictator, and this dude is so scary in that movie.
Yeah.
So, dude, he's so scary. And the thing that marked me for that movie was that, like, the uncanny valley of seeing these actors playing this like photorealistic, just like fucking makeup on ape makeup shit, and then how this movie ends. Because this movie ends, spoilers for this movie, but this is like the specific thing that really like fucked with me. Because this movie ends with like this big confrontation between Mark Wahlberg and like the ape Thade. They just have this confrontation because the whole time, like the movie, he's like the antagonist. And I just remember they have this confrontation where Mark Wahlberg is just completely overpowered. Like, this dude's like jumping all over the place in the scariest like fucking way possible. Let me see. It says blah 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 blah. Thade throws him hard against the wall. Thade takes Leo's gun from him and tries to fire it at Leo. Leo sees that Thade is within the pilot's deck and closes the automatic door.
Yeah.
Inside. Thade fires the gun repeatedly at the door, but the ricochets create sparks that scare Thade, who huddles under a control panel. Deciding to escape Ashlar and return to Earth, Leo gives Pericles to Ari, who promises to look after him. After saying farewell to Ari and Dane, or whatever, Leo climbs aboard Pericles' undamaged pod and travels through the same electromagnetic storm. And then this is the biggest fucking thing. So he like travels through this like space and time thing, and he goes back to Earth. He crashes in Washington D.C. on Earth and looks up at what appears to be Lincoln Memorial, only to find that it's now a monument memorializing General Thade.
Yeah.
A swarm of police officers, firefighters, and news reporters descend upon him, revealing that all of them are apes, as Leo realizes that he is on ape-dominated Earth.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like now as an adult, like if I rewatch this movie, I'd be like, this is some goofy ass shit,
Yeah.
But as an adult, I mean, as a kid, imagine as a kid watching this, watching this like hero guy like be completely overpowered by this like horrifying ape dude and managing to outsmart him, and then returning from this nightmare world full of horrible looking apes just to go back to our planet, and the movie fills you with this sense. Like, if you watch the movie fills you with this sense of like relief. You're like, oh my god, he did it.
Yeah.
He's back on Earth.
Yeah.
And then, it like the movie gets you because then it's like, oh, he's back on Earth, but now Earth is the planet of the apes. So it makes it feel like it's just like this unending nightmare.
Yeah.
Like I really should rewatch this movie just to kind of like contextualize this and get this out of my head. Because I've never watched that movie again since then. But I clearly, obviously, it made such a big impact on me that I clearly have this with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. That to me, that's just number one. That's number one of like non-horror things
Yeah,
that
yeah.
just completely disturbs me.
That's amazing. You know what's funny, dude, is I also have a Planet of the Apes thing on here as well.
Really? Oh my God!
So
The Planet of
so
the Apes is destroying
oh
kids.
yeah. So here's what I'll say. So the original Planet of the Apes, the 1960s one, which is a great movie from what I remember at least. I mean, it's a sci-fi classic. They're still making these to this day. Well, the franchise is still going, right? Like that was a great movie, and it creeped me out a little bit. Like at 10 years old, just seeing like apes throwing humans in nets, and like they managed. They really captured that. They really captured. This is what that movie did really well. It captured the fear of a human now being an animal and a subservient animal, and the
Hmm.
fear of
Yeah,
that, of
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah.
these beings, the fear that animals in our world probably feel, like just this feeling of, oh, there are these other creatures that can just take me, put me in cages, and like do whatever they want,
Yeah.
and it's freaky when the shoe's on the other foot in the Planet of the Apes, which was the whole concept. It's like, oh, well, what if, like humans are now the zoo animals, and like, yeah, it was fairly. There's some creepy parts in that movie, like not creepy in like a the colloquial sense, I guess, but unsettling in that sense. Especially when you're watching that brilliant scene where they're running through the tall grass and they're being chased by, at that point, unseen forces. You
Hmm.
just see the like they're running through tall grass. Have you seen the original Planet of the Apes?
I have not, dude.
Yeah, there's a great scene. They're running through the tall grass. It's like 20, 30 minutes into the movie where they're still kind of figuring out where they are. And there's just a bunch of like, cave people basically running through tall grass. And you just see these long like spears like hacking away at the grass, but you don't see who's holding them. So and then all of a sudden, like these horses rush through and they turn around and you see it's revealed that it's like apes riding the horses, and it's like, oh
Hmm.
shit, oh my god. But what I listed here specifically is the trailer for the movie Escape from the Planet of the Apes. I think it's the
Hmm.
third one in the original franchise from the 70s.
How did you come about watching that trailer?
When I was a kid, I would be on like the Netflix website, and I would, back then you ordered movies by mail, like you rented movies by mail, and my parents had the
Hmm.
Netflix subscription. So I would put a movie in our queue, rent it, and then a few days later, I'd go out to the mailbox and grab my DVD.
Uh-huh.
And so I
Uh-huh.
would browse Netflix as a kid, like looking for movies to be that I was potentially interested in, and watch the trailers. So I watched the trailer for Escape from the Planet of the Apes, and I never ended up watching that movie. But the trailer for Escape from the Planet of the Apes, if anyone wants to go look that up, what you'll see at the very beginning is what creeped me out. The trailer opens and it's just a freeze frame, like a single frame, and a narrator is narrating over it, giving like prefacing the trailer. And it's
Hmm.
basically like this framed photo of an ape mom, an ape dad, and like a baby chimp that they're holding, and they're just kind of like looking at the camera, posing for the photo, and the
Hmm.
narrator's narrating over it. Something about that creeped me out, dude. Like, let me see if I can find that. Escape from the Planet of the Apes family photo. Uh, mm, I don't know if it's. Oh, I think it's on. It's actually on the poster. Yeah, if you look at the poster, it's. Yeah, there it is. And something about that freaked me out, like where it just shows that, and it's just the narrator like narrating over it, and then the trailer
Hmm.
starts.
Hmm.
Um, Let me pull up the actual trailer here real quick. Let me
Stop
see.
relying on the city for.
Uh, Getting all these ads, dude. Okay.
All the YouTube is ads,
Yeah,
man.
here it is. Here it is, dude. Like, let me send you the. I'm gonna send you a screenshot of this.
Mm.
Let me on the chat. Uh. Anyway, shoot. Sorry to apologize to the audience. Hang on. I'm trying to give Edward some context for this. Here we go. But anyway, it unsettled me, dude. Like, I remember right after watching that, I was like 11 maybe at the time, and like just waking up in the middle of the
Mhm.
night and thinking about it. Like, there's something, again, it's like that uncanny valley of just seeing like these apes behaving like people wearing
Yeah,
human clothing.
this is horrifying.
Yeah, isn't it, dude?
It's like this dude. It's like this, like almost like this family photo. He has his like his hand on her shoulder,
Yeah.
and she's like, "Oh my god, that's terrible.
Yeah, it's so
That's
it's freaky, man. It's so
that's terrible."
unsettling. It really is just like that weird unsettling shit, man. And that dude, I actually have to finish that movie Nope by Jordan Peele, but there's an
I
element,
have not started. I've not even watched the movie yet.
there's a
I
back
have to.
so that movie, I've seen part of it. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but like, of course, we all know just from the trailers and stuff that it's about aliens, but there is like a subplot that has to do with a character's backstory where like with a chimpanzee attack, basically. And I don't know, again, I've seen like half the film and I was just really tired at the time and I fell asleep during it.
Mhm,
So I really need to go back and watch Nope like this October for sure.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
Um, but like, yeah, I just wanted to bring that up too, like as sort of I don't know, like another ape thing. Yeah,
Mhm.
again, like I've mentioned this before on the podcast, like that stuffed gorilla that I had as a kid that freaked me out, and like the, you know what else I was freaked out by as a kid when I was like 3 years old. I loved to move the movie The Jungle Book, but dude, like the monkeys and King Louie the orangutan in that freaked me out, dude. Like dude, I don't know what it was. Just how erratic they were and how like I don't know, they just acted clownish, you know? They would like wave their hands around and like scream and yell and it was just dude, I don't know, man. It gave me the chills. I don't know.
Yeah.
We have ape issues, I guess.
We have ape issues, dude. I guess apes are just weird, man. Like I
Yeah.
feel like apes and humans are just such a weird thing.
Yeah.
Like because it's like this reconciling of the fact that we're just kind of like so close to them, you
Yeah.
know.
That's what it
Yet
is.
there's that divide, you know, and it's like this movie's flirting with that like divide that's already pre-established.
Yeah.
Fucks with kids, dude. Like
Yeah.
kids should be we should go to like Senate. We should be like, hey guys, like forget, you know, Mike Myers and all these other movies being like away from children. We need to keep all these ape movies away. We need to get George of the Jungle and what is it, Curious George. We need to get all these people away. All these ape stuff has to get away from kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
100%, man. Another thing as a kid that I remember freaking me out, probably one of the first things to sort of like give me chills was when I was a little kid, I was really into like Thomas the Tank Engine. And there was definitely they would have some like spookier episodes and stuff. Like I remember there was one episode where there was like this sentient boulder or something that was like, you know, that would like roll down the tracks after the trains or whatever, and
Yeah.
it was like supposed to be possessed by some ghost or whatever. And like I remember, and then there was like a scene where the camera like kind of zooms in on it at night, and the boulder has like this weird like face, almost like a statue, you know. And I remember that was freaky, but that was one thing from Thomas the Tank Engine. And then I remember the movie it's called Thomas and the Magic Railroad. That was
Mhm.
that was like one of the first movies I remember watching. Actually stars Alec Baldwin, Peter Fonda, and Mara Wilson, if you can believe that.
Mhm.
And Mara Wilson being the girl who played Matilda. And uh, the villain in that movie was named Diesel 10. And he was, if you look up a picture.
Vin Diesel.
Yeah, Vin Diesel. I know. If you look up Diesel 10, he'll pull up. But he was like this diesel train that wanted to destroy all the steam engines. And if I remember correctly, like his motivation in the movie was
Look at this freaky looking dude.
Yeah, man. I remember in the movie, like his motivation was to basically find like this, the first steam engine or whatever, like the legendary first steam engine, who's also
Hmm.
magical. And if he destroyed her, then he could destroy all the steam engines or something like that.
So
And
he was just like this diabolical guy.
yeah, and he was very like, a hothead, and would have this crazy like evil laugh and gravelly voice, and he had this pincer on the top of his head. So, dude, there's actually a scene where he like chases down Alec
I've seen this.
Baldwin, grabs him up in his
Yeah,
pincer, and then is going to throw him off the side of a bridge, like into a
yeah.
ravine. Like, dude, and I remember as a kid, I really liked that movie as a kid, but I remember being
Mhm.
like freaked out by it. And I remember my dad laughs about this all the time, but my dad like did an impersonation of him when I was a kid, like an
Yeah.
impersonation of Diesel.
It scared you?
And I told my dad, I don't like when you do that. Because I had the toys too. So I had a train table and we had the toys. And when he would move the Diesel toy, he would like talk like him,
Yeah.
And I was like, Dad, I don't like when you do Diesel's voice. But props to that voice actor. What's that voice actor's name? Because he
Oh
did a
man,
great, that's a
that
great
voice.
voice. Diesel 10 voice actor. Neil Crone. Neil Crone is his name.
That's like a that guy always sounds like a villain in real life, dude.
Like that name.
Hmm.
Neil Crone, yeah. Yeah, I don't I'm seeing it looks like he's just been in a bunch of like weird just not I don't like movies that like obscure movies.
Hmm.
Um but apparently he was in the movie It. I don't know who he played in It. Um but yeah, he did props to him cuz dude, he that's actually a great voice performance.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was another early
Dude,
childhood scare.
for me, this one has to be brought up. I think you and I have talked about this.
Yeah.
Um, this is a movie. Let's see if you can guess this one. I'll introduce it piece by piece.
All right.
Animated movie, categorized as family comedy. It came out in 2006. And it's not like a Disney animation.
Uh, was it
Made
Monster House?
by made by an acclaimed director that had never done like animation before.
Oh, Happy Feet?
Happy-
It was Happy Feet?
Yeah, it was Happy Feet, dude.
Oh, yeah. What scared you in that movie?
Well, listen to
Because we
this.
talked about it a little bit a few weeks ago. We were
Yeah,
talking about the director.
yeah. Listen to this. Listen to this. And I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna read the synopsis like of the movie because this is a movie that I was watching. I guess I'll give a little bit of the context. I think I must have been watching this movie literally like maybe I think literally the year that it came out, like just on television. I think I was maybe like 8 at the time, and I was watching this movie, and it was nighttime, and we were going somewhere. I remember that we were going to like the grocery store, like me and my family. But waiting for everybody to get ready, I was just watching. I just put on the TV, and then the TV they were playing Happy Feet,
Hmm.
and so I started watching Happy Feet. I'm watching Happy Feet, and I'm you know I'm through the movie. He meets those like the little amigos guys that he's hanging out with, and they're doing their shenanigans. And what is it? One of them is like, is it him or one of them that is like tangled up on some shit, right?
I don't remember.
But they're doing some shenanigans, and they're trying to like the whole thing with the main character Mumble is that he's always like up to something, and he's always telling people that there's like things outside of being like a like I guess like a penguin. Um, and everybody ridicules him, right? But he has this love interest, Gloria, and in the movie, this is how much I watched of it as a kid. He's up to his shenanigans with the other guys, and they're trying to, I believe, like get the attention of like some kind of like boat that's like fishing
Mm.
by them, just because I think he wants to like prove to the elders that that there's like humans, aliens and other things. And I remember that Gloria literally comes up to him, and her intentions are kind of like romantic. She's like she wants to get with our boy, and he rejects her, but he rejects her just because he's like fearing for her safety. He's like, oh man, I'm up to no good with these guys. We're kind of trying to like uncover this thing, like his hubris and the fact that he's trying to, I guess, like prove to the elders and all this stuff, the music and the people and whatever, you know he rejects her, in the hopes that he's obviously going to see her again, and then maybe he can kind of be more straightforward with her. But she comes up to him, to be his romantic partner. And then the next thing that he does is that he just chases after this like boat all the way to fucking like America, you know. And so listen to this part of the plot, So it says, Mumbo exhaustingly pursues it alone, eventually washing up on the shore of Florida, where he's rescued and kept at a marine world with mage-latic penguins. So literally, he goes to Florida and they put him in fucking marine world. And it says, after a long and secluded confinement, in addition to fruitlessly trying to communicate with the humans, Mumbo nearly succumbs to madness.
Oh God! Yeah. Oh yeah. They put him in with the dudes from Surf's Up, right?
Yes. And no, this is the issue that happens for me as a kid. That's where I stopped watching that movie. Like that's where my mom came. And she was like, hey, we've got to go. We're going to the grocery store. So for years, I had this idea in my head. Because it also, that scene in the movie, it's funny because if you rewatch the movie, like that scene in the movie feels like it has finality. Like it almost feels like the movie ends there. So somehow I had interpreted in my mind, like, that's where that movie ends.
Yeah. Yeah.
This penguin forsakes his family and his friends and his love interests, chases after this fucking boat. They capture him and they put him in confinement. And then in the movie, that part of the movie where he's in confinement, it's like a horror movie.
Dude,
like
yeah.
The way that cinematically they show that with like this weird fisheye lenses, and they just show you these humans like pointing at him, and the guy's just depressed and going bananas.
Yeah.
Like, dude, for years I was just like, that's one of the worst. That's one of the most. I remember as a kid thinking like that's one of the most like nihilistic, like terrible like endings.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
there's no overthinking. Like there's no worst ending to a movie than having a movie with this happy little penguin just flapping around that ends with him in confinement, like super depressed. You know?
But it doesn't actually end with him there. But you thought it did.
But I thought, and then I remember the movie was playing on TV again, and I was like, let me finish watching this movie.
Yeah.
But the confinement part was the part of it that just resulted in like trauma.
Yeah.
Where I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this.
Well, dude, I can still to piggyback off you, like I can vividly still picture that aquarium that he's in, and the way he shot it. I wouldn't be surprised if the director, what's the Mad Max director's name? It's like George Miller. I wouldn't be surprised if he was influenced by Fulci's The Beyond, the ending of that Italian horror movie, The Beyond. It looks like the purgatory scene at the end of that movie, like in that scene. But continue.
Dude, but the thing is, like, who's giving these guys like license to make kids movies? Like,
no,
you get what I'm saying? Like, it's the same thing with like. Guillermo del Toro made that Pinocchio movie. I feel like if I watched that Pinocchio movie as a kid, I also would be like, oh my God, this is terrifying.
Yeah.
Like,
or the original for that matter, the original Disney one. Fuck, that fucked me up, dude.
Who's giving these dudes like license to make these movies? Who's going like, yeah, George Miller, the guy that's only known for making this like brutal like post-apocalyptic movies.
Yeah.
You make a kids movie about a penguin. Like, who gave this guy permission to do that?
I know.
So, dude, finally, after years of just having this thought of like, of basically, because the ending for that movie is also similar to the ending of the Planet of the Apes movie, where it's just like this like character being put in a new reality, and that reality is just like hell.
Yeah.
So those two movies were like existing in my brain of just being like, this is terrible,
Yeah.
I was like, this is terrible. And finally I go back and watch it, and I finish it. I finish watching the movie. And how this movie continues, how this plot continues from where I stopped, is that then in confinement, he starts dancing. And then the crowd, like, he attracts like a big crowd. And the funny thing is that in and of itself is also kind of terrifying. Because then it's just kind of like, oh, this guy is just now like a piece of entertainment, like, but him being a tappy tappy boy gets them to release him, and they release him, and they take him to where he belonged, but they put like a tracker on him, so he has this like antenna on him,
Mm.
and then the movie literally ends with him rejoining his crew, his clan or whatever.
Mm.
Finding out that Gloria is like moved on. She has a mate and like a kid, I think. So she's moved on, and he starts doing his little tappy tappy dance, and then everybody suddenly goes like, "Oh yeah, we believe you because the humans are here, so you were right. There's humans." And then everybody dances and the movie ends.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, what is that ending?
Mm.
Like even that ending in and of itself is like not the only good thing about it is that he's back in his house, like back in his home country, back in his habitat.
Mm.
But it's like his love interest is gone. She's moved on. And he has this weird antenna on him, and now humans are there too, and they're all dancing, and it's like, what's the
Yeah.
it's like, what about this? Like, it's just so strange. Like when you think about a movie like this, and you then think about a movie like, I don't know, Spirit, the Stallion of the Cimarron, or you think about like Tarzan, and those movies have like such happy, like uplifting endings. It's like, what? How does this movie compare to that? I don't know, dude. But I just feel like it's not enough. If you're gonna traumatize your audience and make people go through all that, it's like, dude, you have to do something more than like he should have at least gone back and had the girl again and be like, oh, now he's back with his love interest. Like I feel like that would have
Yeah.
kind of made up for everything. But it's like
All's
you're telling
well
me
that ends well.
yeah, but you're telling me that he was like in captivity for months, and now everybody's moved on. People just thought that he was dead. I don't know, dude. It's terrible.
Yeah, I'm looking at screenshots of the aquarium scene of like him in the zoo. I mean, this is horrifying. Like really,
It's terrible, dude.
just the faces looking through the glass at him. Oh my god.
Let me look that up.
This is like nightmarish, dude. I agree with you though. Like
aquarium scene.
who is giving people who is like signing off
dude,
on this for kids?
Man, I'm looking at this right now. Like his reflection on the glass, and the humans, and then the shots of like from the humans like POV. Like, dude, this is terrible, man.
Yeah, but you could argue that maybe it is a good thing to have things like this in kids movies, because I feel like maybe it is important even as a kid to like be challenged, and be like,
dude,
I don't know,
horrify a child. I mean, challenge a child. Don't
No, I know. I'm not saying like show them like show kids R-rated movies, but like yeah, I mean, I'm just saying like I'm arguing for like
challenging kids films.
Yeah, like having, challenging kids in the sense of like, being like, oh, sometimes you have like more of a bittersweet ending, and you just kind of got to move on. And, like, I don't know.
Bro. I feel like a lot of adult people making films and content where we're kids had that idea in their mind. Because I feel like there's a lot of examples of media like this. Like when, I'm not going to spoil anything, but one of the biggest, I guess, events of my childhood was the end of Dragon Ball. And specifically the end of Dragon Ball GT. And the end of Dragon Ball GT is one of those like kind of just like bummer kind of endings where you're just kind of like, what happened? What happened? Like it just feels like there was too much content when we were kids, that it was just like that was just basically like some adult you
right
being like, I have to switch it up for the children. I have to show them I have to show them a different way. And it's like, dude, I feel like there was too much of that, man. I just wanted like the happy things. And as a kid, I just wanted happy things. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could kind of see it, from the creator's point of view, because it's like, I've written like I wrote a comic book that's mostly like for kids audiences. Think like Ben 10, basically that demographic. And yeah, like I have to, of course I censor myself. I tone it down in terms of like violence. There's no sex or anything like that, of course. But, philosophically, when you're an adult, things still kind of come out where you're like, you still want to make those challenging themes and stuff, So yeah,
Dude,
I can.
leave those kids alone,
No,
bro.
I know. Jake, stop writing that comic book. Cancel the comic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stop presses. Don't print them.
Yeah, I don't have any. I'm not really even that interested in writing like kids content. Honestly, like that was a one-off thing that I wrote just for like more as like a business move for the company I was with, but or I am with. But yeah, man. Before I forget, dude, I want to jump to the present real quick. I want to bring up something that scared me recently. I watched that movie Oddity. Did you hear about this movie?
No, I
New
don't think so.
Irish horror film. It came out this year, but when I was in New York City last weekend, visiting my sister up there. My other sister and I went up to visit our sister, and one night at the apartment, we put on this new Irish horror film, Oddity, which that and like Longlegs have been the horror films this year. I feel like that have been getting like the respect, where it's like, oh, these are scary.
Ian McCarthy.
Yeah, and it seems like Oddity has now trumped Longlegs. Longlegs seems to be getting a lot of like lukewarm reception at this point. People kind of turned on that movie. But yeah, dude, Oddity, that was pretty scary, dude. That was one that like there were a couple moments in that movie where I was like, I don't want to be here. Get me out of this. Get me out of this. Like my fight or flight response was triggered, where I'm just like, I want it. Like, when sometimes like a horror movie actually makes you want to like cover your eyes and just get away from it, and this movie kind of did that to me. It actually mixes. It's a supernatural horror film that really effectively mixes in slasher elements as well, all in service of like a greater story and mystery. Really solid flick, Oddity. I would definitely check that one out. You'll get a good scare from that one.
I want to ask you something though to follow up to take us back to what you said.
Yeah.
Not about the movie, but about Longlegs. Like you said, that people have kind of had like since the movie's kind of peak in popularity, people are now kind of having mixed feelings about it. Do you still feel, because you were very positive, like, do you still feel positive about it?
Yeah. No, I do. I thought it was great. I do think like the third act gets kind of wonky. Like it feels rushed. Like the climax is very rushed. And there's like right before the climax this huge exposition dump to kind of catch you up on on all the answers to the mystery and everything. But no, I thought Longlegs was solid, man. I liked it. I haven't turned on it yet, so
You're good.
Yeah, it was. I mean, shit. It's definitely not your run of the mill like January horror film. I mean, it's well made. But yeah, I feel like people are really turning on that movie. Like I saw someone say this on Reddit, and I kind of agree with them, or I do agree with them. Where they were like, it was like this movie came out and everybody loved it, and then 1 week later, everybody just turned on it and was like, "This movie sucks." It's kind of weird.
It's funny because that was my impression of the film. Like my impression of the film was that everybody loved it, and then sometimes it's like one review, because sometimes you as a viewer, and I'm not talking about you, obviously, I'm talking about like people. Sometimes like people just kind of like watch a movie and they see that it's good and they go like, oh, it's good, like you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they just kind of go with the general consensus. And I feel like sometimes specific reviewers, for instance, let's say the Critical Drinker, or YMS or whatever. I haven't seen any reviews for this movie because that I avoid watching reviews for films I've not seen, unless I know for a fact I'm just not going to see the movie. But I know I will watch Longlegs eventually. But let's just say that I feel like it just takes one big reviewer. I feel like one big reviewer saying stuff negatively about a movie can make such a big difference. Like it can make like a weird trickling effect impact on like a movie's like long-term like critical performance, like for real, dude.
I think you're right about that. Yeah, the Critical Drinker definitely has that effect. Like once he releases a video saying like, "Oh, this new show is shite," or something, it's just like,
hey, but I guess it is shite.
Yeah. I recently sat down and between between my 47th and my 48th pint, I watched Longlegs, and I've got to say, yeah, and I've got to say, I've got some thoughts of my own.
Yeah.
um,
On our future standing like Wikipedia page, to be one of your recurring impressions.
yeah, exactly. No, it definitely is. Yeah. Well, so to wrap up for me on childhood stuff, I talked about the Disney music video before that scared me as a kid. I'm not going to go into that again. People can. Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island freaked me the hell out at 5 years old. I remember my parents were mad after putting that on. Like once the movie ended,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
we talked about that last week, right? Too.
Oh, did we? Yeah, my parents were like pissed. They were like at the filmmakers. Like they were like, "This is way too much for kids. What is wrong with them?" You know, like, yeah, they were pissed off. And I remember, kind of rightly so. Like I do think that movie is too scary for kids. It's like you were saying with Happy Feet. Like when I go, because I've gone back and watched like clips from Zombie Island to see like what what was scaring me so much, and like. Now of course it's tame, but as an adult, but I mean, I'm watching this and I'm like, what business do you have you seen Zombie Island?
I think I've seen parts of it. I've not actually seen it.
Yeah, so I mean, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, like there's scenes in it where I'm like, what business do you have?
Scooby-Doo on Cocaine Island.
Scooby-Doo. What about Scooby-Doo on Epstein Island?
Yeah.
Zoinks. So yeah, no, but there's like scenes in that movie where I'm watching it and I'm like, what business do you have showing this to kids? I mean, dude, the ending, like in Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, it's like the end at the climax, it's revealed that like the two women who own this plantation on this island, like, are actually werecats, and they lure tourists to the island to drain their life force. Because when they were, when they were alive, like back in the 1600s or whatever, like these pirates came, slaughtered all of their people, so they prayed to their cat god, and the cat god turned them into werecats so they could take revenge on the pirates. Then the pirates became zombies and are trying to are actually the good guys who are trying to warn people to leave the island. And because these werecats lure tourists in and drain their life force to stay young. And I'm like, what business do you have showing this to kids, man? What? That is not a kid's movie. What I just described to you, that's a freaking straight up horror film. I mean, like, hats off to the creatives. Like, it's a good idea. Like, it's not a bad idea. It's good horror, but that is not kid stuff. Like, holy shit. So that I actually, because what I was saying before about Happy Feet, I was more talking about like themes and stuff. But that, like, what I'm talking about here with Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, that's like mature content. I don't know. To me, my opinion, too much for kids, man. And that movie's rated G, I'm pretty sure. What is Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island rated? Not rated? But G. Yeah, no, it's G. I mean, get the hell out of here, man.
So it's like you don't even need parents to tell you, like, yeah, you can watch that.
Right. So my parents.
BS.
Right. So when I'm 5 years old, my parents are like, hey, it's G rated. Let's put it on and watch it with the kids. And then it's like, it's like the filmmakers are like, oops, gotcha. It's like a bait and switch almost, where it's like, nope, this is a horror film, bitch. I don't know. I think, too much, man. Not a bad movie, but I'm just saying, like, too much. That shit needed to be PG.
That's that, dude. I should check that out. Just for the heck of it.
Yeah.
At least not on that scare. It's a boy. It's a child.
On the zombie topic, the Thriller music video scared me a lot when I was a kid.
I know that did that for you. I think for me, on the Thriller topic, to make even to just do these two segues. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
For me, it was Michael Jackson.
Himself. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, what a maneuver! That
As a
segue,
kid,
dude.
I was terrified of Michael Jackson. Dude, terrified of him. I mean, now I can listen to his music. Obviously, I mean, he's great music. Um, but I was terrified of him to the point that when he passed away, I was like, oh, he doesn't exist anymore. You know, like when he passed away in 2009, I was like, he doesn't exist. Like, like he's gone. Like, not just like, I mean, again, I was a child. I was literally like, when he passed away, I was like 8, 9. And, not to make any weird comments, but I'm just saying that there was like a weird sense of relief that I had. It was like,
phew, got him.
and again, all the respect to the man, and like I said, I do enjoy his music, and I don't want to be even too kind of like apologetic. I mean, he also has these weird allegations, um, but the allegations were part of the reason why I was like afraid of him, because it was just like this weird thing in the news that just made him into this like boogeyman.
Yeah,
like, oh, if you're a child, you should be like away from this guy. So yeah, dude, Michael Jackson is in my top 3 childhood scares.
Well, yeah,
Non-horror things.
Yeah, not zombie Michael Jackson, just Michael Jackson himself.
Just Michael Jackson. For you, it was zombie Michael Jackson. For me, it was Michael Jackson. Look how our childhoods are intrinsically tied, Jake.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, well,
Michael Jackson.
Yeah, Michael Jackson brought us together as children. You know what's funny? I didn't know about the allegations against Michael Jackson until I was like a teenager, I think, dude. I just never heard about it. Like, I barely knew who he was until he died. And I already had known the Thriller video by the time he died, but I didn't even know his other music. And then, of course, like, when he died, like, I mean, the world was in an uproar when that guy died. And then I remember, like, my family and like Jack's family, we had like this whole like, they threw like this dinner party and like put on just back to back like all of his music videos, like and just honoring him, So I didn't, and back then the allegations were like, at that point, even I didn't know about the allegations, but at that point too, like, it was generally thought that like, oh, these are just kind of bullshit. But now, after the whole Leaving Neverland stuff, that now it's like this huge thing where it's like, oh shit, like this actually might be the case. I don't know. I haven't seen Leaving Neverland, so I don't even know. I don't know.
I watched like I think I watched like a full episode of that, and
Really?
then I was like, fuck this. Like, I was like, this is just. That was part of my beginning disillusion with documentaries, where I was just like, it goes nowhere. Like the first episode is like an hour and a half, and it finishes, and you're like, I'm exactly where I started. Like, you haven't revealed anything to me that I didn't know. Like there's so I just and I feel like after the documentary came out, like I'm pretty sure that it has been since like kind of basically like disproven. Like all the stuff that people said didn't hold any water. So
yeah.
So at this point, I don't think it's even worth watching.
Yeah, we may never know.
No, I don't. We may never know. I really do believe we may just never know. The legacy of that man might just remain, for better or worse. Unclear.
Yeah.
About the what actually happened.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, the Thriller music video freaked me out. Like, there were a number of things. I think, I mean, in the Thriller music video, like at the beginning when he transforms into a werewolf and he chases that girl through or a werecat, I think. He chases that girl through the woods. I always thought, like, just putting myself in the girl's shoes, I was like, that's really scary. To be by yourself with somebody and then they turn into a werewolf and you got to run through the woods away from them. That's pretty fucking terrifying. And then, yeah, Michael Jackson himself as a zombie was scary. And then when the woman's in the house and all the zombies are like closing in, they're like busting through the floorboards and like through the windows and stuff. That was definitely freakish. And then, dude, the ending when he looks at the camera and his eyes are like snake eyes, or they're the eyes of that like werecat thing he turned into at the beginning. That
Mhm.
shit's freaky. Like it just freezes on his face, and then Vincent Price laughs, and then it's just the credits roll, and it just continues to zoom in on his frozen face. Like
Yep.
that shit was so freaky.
It's creepy, dude. It's so
Yeah.
creepy.
Yeah, but I love the Thriller music
And,
video.
and that was John Landis, right?
John Landis, he did a great job, man.
Yeah.
It's a great, yeah, dude. I think the Thriller music video is like scarier than a lot of horror movies that come out. I mean,
John Landis is a cursed human being
why you say that?
because it's
Because
like,
of his
dude,
son, he was cursed with Max.
no, I think Max. I think both of them. They come from the same tree, I guess. Because the thing is that they do. Because I read into this. You can read into this on your own time. But there was a production that he did of like I think it's like the X Files or something. Like he did the movie adaptation of one of those things, and 3 people died in his shoot.
That's right. Yeah.
Like by like a helicopter accident because he had told. And it was like infamous. He had to go to court and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was because of like from what I understand and from what's come out over the years, it was like but more or less his fault. Like because he had the helicopter operator doing something horrifically improper, which was like chasing these kids on a fucking helicopter. And
Yeah.
from what I understand, he kept telling the helicopter pilot to go even further down, like closer to the kids, and he crashed onto those kids.
God damn, dude.
Yeah, Max Landis, man, man, and apparently, I mean, you can people listening to this, you can look into this on your own time. Don't quote me on any of what I'm saying. I just read about it once, like a few months ago, but I think what I just said is actually like true. But he also just had like a humongous history of just like being terrible, basically on set and to actors and shit.
Yeah. Well, and also, and this is true, he right after the helicopter crashed and hit those kids, he turned around and then shot 3 more people. Like point blank, just killed them.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah.
He did do that, didn't he?
Yeah. So he went to court. That was like a separate matter. And then it all came together in a class action lawsuit. Yeah, this is all true. This is the truly completely factual Film Tangents podcast, everybody.
Well, yeah,
we are the citation. We don't need to cite our sources. We're who people cite. Like in the Wikipedia articles, they cite the citation, the Film Tangents podcast.
But yeah, Max Landis and I guess John Landis, couple of weirdos.
Yeah.
Like father and son.
Yeah. I enjoy Max Landis's YouTube videos, but yeah, he's.
I mean, I'm still subscribed to him. Like every now and then he puts something up and I'll watch.
Yeah, he has an interesting pitch. I don't know if I talked about it, but he had a pitch for like a mashup movie that was like Michael Myers, Jason, Freddy, and Chucky, like all in one movie, basically.
I don't think I watched him pitch that.
It's like the Avengers, but with them, not the Avengers, but it's like that. It's the marquee value of the Avengers. But the plot is essentially like the Wizard of Oz, but instead of Scarecrow, Tin Man, and the Lion, it's Freddy, Jason, and Chucky, and then the wizard archetype is Pinhead from Hellraiser. And then instead of going into Emerald City or Oz or whatever, they're going to hell essentially. And then there's a subplot with Michael Myers, like rampaging through a hospital or whatever. I thought it was a great pitch. I really liked it. It was pretty interesting, but it would have been cool if he had gotten that made. If he wasn't such a.
Exactly. Like I think now he's like I feel like he's being like blacklisted. I don't think he's.
Oh, he 100% has. Yeah. No, I think he like puts up movies on his YouTube channel now. Like he's not gonna get to make anything. But yeah, because he's a big old naughty boy.
but he's just not allowed to have things with his name on it because what I do understand though is that he does still sell like scripts and he does like rewrites. He does specs and rewrites still. Like he's still
Oh,
successful in Hollywood. He's just not nothing has his name. You know,
wow, wow.
but he's
Yeah, because
making
that
money.
yeah, because that was something interesting we learned in film school that like there's just all these people behind the scenes who like write spec scripts and then it gets
Yeah,
handed off to person number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then that
yeah.
person's name is who gets the writing credit.
Yeah, no, dude. I watched like a live stream that he did. He did a live stream like recently because he moved into like a new apartment, and he was like, "We have my nice new apartment," and that was what became clear for me listening to him that it was just like, "Oh, this dude's just doing specs and like and rewrites. Like he's still making money, you know." Because I think they still recognize that he's talented.
Yeah,
I think what they recognize too is that his name is just not a good name to be associated with anything.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we had a professor too that was he wrote didn't he write like the original draft of like a Silver Surfer movie, and then they ended up like
Yeah,
bringing the Fantastic Four into it, and that became Rise of the Silver Surfer or whatever.
yeah. But at that point, it's like, I feel like at that point, like when he told me as a story, I was like, dude, you should have kept that story to yourself. Like, honestly, that was like the thought that I had when he said that, because I was like, what's the point of like even mentioning this? That you
Oh,
get paid like some like bits of money to like do like a fucking like spec, and then they just rewrote it 1,000 times. Like at that point, who cares? like, like I remember
I
just
think it's
thinking
still
like, what are you
cool.
I remember thinking like, what are you proving? Like it was just a weird dude. I lost respect for him when he mentioned that. I was like, you should have fucking
Really?
kept that shit. Yeah,
I thought it was cool. I mean, I was like, hey,
yeah, but
that's
he
pretty cool.
presented it in like a weird like phony baloney like pity party way.
Yeah, they all did that.
And
A
I
lot of
I
them did
I,
that.
I didn't respect him for that. That's like, dude, like, come on, bro.
We had so many
Like
professors that would do that.
I respected. I'm not gonna name anybody. I'm not gonna name names. I'm not gonna name anybody's fucking
Of
names.
course
But
not.
you know who I loved. I loved an old gargoyle that was at that school. That was all about just rejecting anything that had to do with your own work. Especially when you're a teacher. I respected that philosophy.
Yeah, and like he's really, really happy and has like a lot of family and friends surrounding him. Just follow his advice.
Jake. Jake. I'm gonna say something to you, man. I'm gonna say something to you, man. Not everybody can be an existential character.
Yeah,
their
yeah.
whole their whole lives. I feel like all of us have periods of our lives where we're existentialist characters. And for those listening, an existentialist character is just a character that it's like a human being or a character in fiction that is imbued with just like a constant sense of like trying to come to grips with reality in the sense of like trying to maintain individualism through decision making and trying to just always be an individual, not compromising like the things that you believe, or in this instance, like what would be a person's like super objectives, like a guiding principle as a human being. And usually existentialist characters are also really like melancholic and depressed.
Yeah, yeah.
But this man that we're talking about is a true existentialist character because he's lived his life through these principles of just what he believes and his goals as a human being. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes the number one key to recognizing an existentialist film. I took a class in film school called Existentialist Masters. The number one way of recognizing an existentialist film, if you're ever in doubt and you're watching a movie and you're like, this is kind of an existentialist philosophical movie. If the main character ends by themselves, it's an existentialist movie. So
Yeah, that's
that
a good
man's
point.
is living peak existentialism right
Yeah,
now.
that's true.
All respects to him, dude. I'll pour a beer out for him.
Not to get too far off the topic of the special, but I would consider Clerks an existentialist movie, right? Would you?
Uh, I don't remember how does the movie fucking end.
He's by himself at the gas station, like
Yeah, then
at the
sure. Yeah,
at the
yeah.
convenience
So it's like
store,
the movie has all the makings of it. Like it's a philosophical film.
because he's trying to find the right road in life. Like I
Yeah,
always found that film very
100%. Yeah,
existential.
that's an existentialist movie for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Okay, so one thing that we're getting closer to like regular horror here, I guess, but this is another like childhood one, but this is actual horror. An early horror film that I saw in middle school was because I didn't start watching like full on R-rated horror till high school. Um, Middle school, I was at a friend's house sleeping over, and we were like waiting on someone else to arrive or something. And so we were just killing time in the living room, and I was channel surfing, and I landed on Poltergeist 2. And I watched the back half of that movie. And the scene in that movie where so the family from the first movie, it's them still in Poltergeist 2. They move houses, but the spirits or whatever, the demon from the first movie is like still following them essentially. And the demon is trying to figure out like how to infiltrate the family and break the family apart, and try to get in the house, right? And um and there's a scene where the dad is like drinking a tequila bottle, and it has a worm in it, like tequila worm in it.
And I remember that scene, that song that goes like tequila.
Yeah, no. And the camera zooms in on the worm, and it like opens an eye and like kind of looks back at the camera, and the dad drinks the worm, and then he's possessed by the demon. He goes upstairs, he like, starts like assaulting the mom essentially, and then she tells him that she loves him, and it like expels the demon. Quite literally, because he then vomits up the worm. It is now the size of a python. So there's a scene where the worm, python-sized worm, comes out of him, and the effects.
Is it like the Rick and Morty like scene?
Yes.
They keep praising him to take that thing out of him.
It's exactly like that. I think that scene was a parody of Poltergeist 2, actually.
Okay.
And the effects in this movie were actually supervised by H.R. Giger, the guy who did the Alien, the Xenomorph. So there's a lot of like similarities to that. Dude, he throws up the worm, it crawls under the bed and transforms into like this, legless, crawling like goblin creature, crawls out of its own slime, smiles at the parents, and then leaves the room. And then it turns into like this Gorgon thing. So like the Alien, it has like these different life cycles. And dude, that shit freaked me out, man. That fucked me up. That scene fucked me up for like a year. Like there was every day I would think about that scene and just be like, oh my God, because I was like 12. And at that point, that was like the most disturbing thing I had seen like on film, I think. And dude, every day, like at some point during the day, I'd remember that scene and just be like, oh God, fuck. It was so disturbing. And then like too, also when it's in its full form, the creature, it's like I said, this Gorgon, like Medusa looking thing with like zombie like skin, and then it has this long like snake tail, and along the tail are the faces of its like followers just like stuck in it and like screaming. Oh, fuck, dude. Fuck. Poltergeist 2, not to be messed with. That is, it's not the greatest movie. It's like there's plot holes galore and weird story elements and stuff, but it is like arguably as scarier, probably scarier than the first one. There's some freaky shit in that movie. But that was a big hell nah from my childhood, dude. Poltergeist 2.
I think for me, to I guess introduce like a little bit more the horror wave, I'm gonna start with a soft one because this is actually for kids. And it was that when I was a kid, I remember what channel it was. It might have been Nickelodeon, but every night, especially like Fridays and Saturday nights, Sunday nights, they, after a certain time, I think after 10, they would show episodes of Goosebumps, the 90s show.
Yeah, dude. Yes. Oh, I forgot about Goosebumps, man.
Dude, that show, especially the intro, like the intro song, that show has like an intro song that's like dun 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 dun.
Mm-hmm.
And it like ends or starts with like I think it ends with like a dog and his eyes are like shining,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like all these like creepy things, and obviously they're just adaptations of R.L. Stein's books.
Mm-hmm.
But some of those fucking episodes, dude, were just like, this is just a horror movie.
Yeah.
Like, this is just terrible, you know. And again, it's just horror for children, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like, is horror ever really for children?
Right. Yeah. It's
Are
always gonna
children really
be.
ever supposed to be scared? And there were a lot of episodes of that show. There were episodes about this like puppet, which was just like a Chucky thing. There was like an
Yeah.
episode about like this like
Slappy.
puppet,
Yeah.
Slappy. Yeah, and that was a big one. And there were like barriers, so that's like there was like 2 or 3 of those
Mm-hmm.
Slappy episodes. That was a really scary one for me when I was a kid. There's a lot of like really horrifying Goosebumps episodes, but the one that always comes to my mind when I think about Goosebumps and like the what really scared me is an episode called The Haunted Mask.
Yep. There were 2 of
And this
those
is
too. They were great.
yes. Yeah, and they were both great. And the whole premise of it is this girl that she's kind of being like messed with at school. It's around Halloween time, and to basically to mess back with the people that are fucking with her, she goes to a mask shop, and she's like, I want to get that mask. It's like this terrifying fucking looking mask. Um, and the guy at the shop just tells her like, no, you're not gonna get it, and she steals it, and she like just kind of like dumps the money on his what is the register.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because as a kid, whenever you watch it as a kid, you think like, oh, I guess it's fine. But it's like, no, it's actually stealing. Like the guy said no, and you just like gave him what you thought like was like like decent enough money for that. But it's like the dude said no, he didn't want you to take that mask. And again, it's like this horrifying, like bold, weird, alien looking thing, like demon looking thing. Um And the horrifying thing about it is that it's like the mask gets stuck on her. Like she puts it on, and then the first time she puts it on, she like gets like a weird voice and takes it off, And then she puts it on again, and the second time she puts it on, she can't take it off anymore. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my god, And then when she goes to like the shop to ask the guy like what is this, and the guy's just like, oh, that mask was an actual person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was like some demon. Let me read the rest of the synopsis. Carly Beth is shocked to find that she's unable to remove the mask, and it seems to have become part of her skin. She goes to the shop. The guy tells her that it can only be removed with a symbol of love. Carly Beth begins to cry out in horror, awakening the other masks begin to pursue her. Chased by the other masks, she runs to the cemetery and digs up the mold her mother gave her because her mom had given her like a mold of her head.
Mm-hmm.
Carly Beth uses the mold to tear the other masks and is able to remove the mask from her face. She returns home to her mother, tossing the mask near the door. Carly Beth is horrified to see Noah wearing the mask upon his return.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, that got me, man. When I was a
Yeah.
kid, that got me. That stayed with me for a while. And again, it's like this is supposed to be like a kid's horror show, and it's like this shit's horrifying. This is like an existential horror of just like staying stuck on you. It's like this weird body horror too.
That is body
Yeah,
horror. You're right.
yeah,
Yeah.
dude, that terrified me. I hated that.
Yeah. The what was that? Well, the sequel was her bully. It happens to her bully, Steve or whatever I think his name was.
Mhm.
'Cause in the sequel, he's like wearing that old man mask, like it's like an old warlock or
Yeah, it's an
something.
old man mask.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah,
Yep.
Goosebumps was good. I read the books and watched the show. The books of Goosebumps that freaked me out were the mummy ones. It was like I think it was there were like these 2 mummy ones that freaked me out when I was like 8 or 9. Um there were quite a few of the books that freaked me out. There was one where like the kid turns into a bee and then he's got to like figure out how to turn back into a human. So he's just a bee like flying around, That was a good one. Yeah, those haunted masks ones kicked ass. The slappy ones kicked ass, dude. I think my favorite Goosebumps book, I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast before, but like Slappy is actually the protagonist. It's called Slappy's Nightmare.
I might have seen. I think I saw all those Slappy ones.
Yeah, I don't
Just
know if it was.
describe it.
I don't know if they made it into an episode because it was part of like a updated Goosebumps series or something.
Then probably not, because all that shit was like like 90s, I believe.
Yeah, and I think because like he made a few like different Goosebumps series or whatever, but he made it. R.L. Stine wrote a really good one called Slappy's Nightmare, where Slappy's the protagonist, and basically he keeps like ruining his owner's ventriloquism shows. He keeps like fucking them up on purpose. Because Slappy, that dummy, you're right. Like he was freaky. I always felt like what was creepy about him was just how malicious he was, dude. Like he was just so fucking mean. Like he just wanted to cause people harm. That's like all he wanted to do. And but in the book, he basically his ventriloquist is like, I've had enough of you, so he like puts a curse on him, and he shows him like a basically another. He has like another dummy, and he's like, this is your replacement. I'm putting like a curse on you, and it's gonna kill you, and then your replacement is gonna come to life. And Slappy's like, oh my god, no, I'll do anything. And then the ventriloquist is like, all right, you have to do 3 good deeds within the next week, or you're gonna die. And so Slappy has to like go around trying to do like becomes owned by a new family, but every time he tries to do a good deed, his clone or like the other puppet that wants to stay alive like fucks it up for him and like frames him or something. So it's really good. Like it kind of, you're with the villain, but he's the protagonist. I always liked it as a kid. I read that one.
They turned it around.
Yeah, I read it like multiple times as a kid. I thought it was a pretty good plot. But yeah, the episodes, I really loved that werewolf one, Werewolf of Fever Swamp. Do you remember that one?
I don't know. I don't know if I remember that one. Let me look it up and see if something clicks my mind.
The twist in that one's good because the whole movie you think, or the whole episode or whatever, you think that the werewolf is like this old hermit in the woods. And the twist is that the hermit is just trying to kill the werewolf, and the werewolf is actually the main character's next door neighbor who's like his friend.
I don't think I've seen this one. Doesn't trigger anything. I don't think I've seen this one.
Yeah, that one was good, man. There's one, How to Kill a Monster. That was a pretty good one. It's just these kids getting chased by this swamp monster like through their house. That I liked that one. Yeah, there were a lot of those that were good.
I want to, people, how people sometimes make like videos on YouTube, just basically like going through like all this old shit like this, like old Goosebumps episodes.
Yeah.
Retrospective. I need to watch one of those just to like remember like the episodes I've watched. Because I don't know, I don't think I've watched either of the ones you said. I don't think I've watched those, but I know I've watched like a lot because I watched that a lot as a kid.
Yeah. There was R.L. Stine. He wrote other stuff besides Goosebumps. Like he had a series called Mostly Ghostly. That was actually pretty good. It was like this kid who starts
Mostly Ghostly.
Yeah, he starts like getting followed around by these 2 like ghost children, and like he starts like helping them solve this mystery and like purge this phantom that like, I don't know, messed with, like was haunting their family or something. That was a pretty good series. And then I read that as a kid. And then he also wrote like some short story collections. And I remember this one short story that he wrote. It was really super simple, but it just freaked me out, where it was like this kid was in a hospital. I think the story is called I'm Not Martin, if I'm not mistaken. And it's just the main character is in a hospital. He has like some autoimmune disorder, so he finds himself like in the hospital like every now and then, just kind of being like observed there. And he's in the bed next to him is this kid named Martin who has to have his foot amputated. And the kid keeps saying like, no, I'm not Martin. I don't want my foot he doesn't want his foot amputated. So he keeps telling them like, I'm not Martin, like, You know what I mean? And so then the main character falls asleep, and when he wakes up, the nurses and doctors are wheeling his bed away, and they're like, "We're gonna amputate your foot." And the protagonist realizes that Martin switched the names on the beds, so now the main character, and so the main character starts going, "I'm not Martin, I'm not Martin," and they're like, "Oh, they said you'd do this," you know, and they take him to amputate his foot, dude. I was like, "Holy shit! How do you come up with?" And that's the end, dude. They just wheel him away.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, I know, right? And again, that was, I think these were like young adult at the very least. I don't know if they were for kids, but these were like young adult horror stories. Yeah, that one freaked me out. Anything else from your childhood, dude? Or should we just get
Well,
into
other than Goosebumps, there's a couple more that you know that happened like while I was still a kid. One of them, this is a big one. This happened in 2005, so I must have been seven,
Oh,
8, maybe.
yeah, I think I know what you're gonna say.
Oh, I don't think you know this one.
Oh,
There was a, you know, if you do, then you know, let me know. But when I was a child, Dominican cinema, me being a Dominican boy, Dominican cinema was like not was like starting to get like a grip. You know, people were making movies, and part of that was that they made a Dominican horror movie. Do you get where I'm going with this? Have I talked to you about this before?
I think you might have.
They made a Dominican horror movie, dude, in 2005. It's called Andrea: The Revenge of the Spirit. That's the name of the movie. If anybody wants to go watch it, it's called Andrea.
Yeah, you told me
It's
about
actually
this one with the horse or whatever.
yes,
Yeah.
dude. I think it's called Andrea: The Revenge of the Spirit in English. When I was growing up, like the movie was just called Andrea, like that, like period. It was just called Andrea. Um, this is a movie that is like about this like woman whom I forget exactly what the premise is, but it's like about a guy that kills himself. Like a guy kills himself and they like, bury him, and he has like a nice, you know, tombstone or something or like a cross. And this family, like they lose like somebody in their family, and they don't have money to pay for like him to have like a cross on his grave or something, or like a tombstone, and they steal it from the other grave, the grave of the guy that had killed himself.
Oh, jeez.
And so then that just everything just fucking goes everything becomes loose, you know. Um and they're haunted by this demon, you know. And they do that demon thing where it has like three voices overlaid on top of each other. You know, and dude, I was like seven. And we like watched this. Like we watched this. Me, my brother, and my sister, we
Damn.
sat down and we watched this. And again, dude, it's just like this like horrific thing. If I watched it now, and I've seen clips of it now, it's like super low budget. Like it looks like ass.
Yeah.
They made it on like a shoestring budget, and in the American Republic at that time, I don't even know if they even do it now, but they didn't have like ways to actually get special effects going. And we watched this film. The biggest scene, like the most impactful scene out of that for me, and I've told you about this, is this scene where like at midnight, the main character is like, what is it? Somebody gives him like a horse ride. You know, somebody picks him up and he's like on a horseback ride going somewhere like to his house or something. And this is like, you know, country roads, like, you know, mud roads, not paved, like in this very kind of like foresty area. Um, and I think the guy, it's either him himself is like on the horse, or there's another guy with him on the horse, and they're just like, hey, the horse is heavy. You know, the horse starts making a bunch of like huffing and puffing, and they're just like, what's going on? You know,
Yeah.
and the main character just like, oh no, this is what it is. The main character is on his horse, and he gives like a ride to a dude on the side of the road. Like a dude is just like, hey, could you take me to the town? And he's like, okay. And so he lets the dude ride, and so he's on the horse, you know, and there's a dude like right behind him that is giving just a ride on the horse. And then he just starts noticing that the horse is heavy, and the horse is like puffing and huffing and puffing and getting rattled. And he hears like what sounds like stuff dragging on the ground. And so the shot is just him looking back from and just seeing like human feet dragging,
Oh.
you know, like on the horse. Like meaning that there's like a huge person on the horse. Like this dude that he picked up, like his legs are so long that his feet are dragging on the the ground.
God.
And so he looks back, and the film just shows you this like demon face,
Oh fuck.
and then the horse just goes, "Roar," and fucking
God.
flips everybody over. Like that, dude. That was terrifying.
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid, I watched that scene. That was terrifying. And the worst of it is that the whole thing with that Andrea movie too is that the main demon had like chains or something, and you could hear him because you would hear chains dragging. And so my stepfather knew that we had watched the movie, and so we're sleeping, and while we're sleeping, like, dude, we're sleeping, and like at 2 in the morning, right? He goes outside in the middle of the night, goes to our backyard, like outside of our window,
Oh
and he
no.
starts dragging chains like on the ground.
That's awesome.
Dude, you
Respect.
cannot make this up, dude. I was just like, what is going on? I had to go to like, what's going on? My mom was just like, hey, stop that. And mom was just like, like, oh, he's like, like fucking with you kids. So she like made him stop, and then we knew what was going on. But dude, I mean, that when I was a kid, that was like the peak, like
Yeah.
terrifying, like childhood terrifying experience. Like nothing compares to that. Until then, just me being a teenager, going out of my way to watch horror movies. But as a child, that was like peak, like intensity. I should rewatch the movie, even if it was probably ass. I should siblings, get my siblings together. I should just rewatch that movie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but that's peak, dude. The only bonus that I can add to that is that this too. Sometime in 2008, and I guess at that point I must have been 9. That I watched fucking Funny Games.
Yeah.
That was just a whole thing on its own. Um, but I wanted to read this for the audience from Funny Games. Spoilers for Funny Games, by the way. But I'm just gonna read one thing from Funny Games, and it just says Peter and Paul. Again, spoilers. Skip to like 1 full minute from here, unless we otherwise say so. But I would say skip to like 3 minutes from here just to make sure. But this is how the movie ends. It says Peter and Paul kill George and Anne, take Anne, bound and gagged, out onto the family's boat. Anne tries to free herself, but is caught by Paul and Peter. And then this is and this. I've told you this. Like this part right here, they even put it down in the fucking YouTube plot description. It just says Paul nonchalantly pushes her into the water to drown.
Yeah.
They knock on the door of Thompson's house, there's a neighbor, and request some eggs. Paul glances at the camera with a smirk, and the fucking movie ends.
Yeah.
With just that like avant-garde like metal that they fucking have in the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Like,
And a
tell me,
freeze frame on his smirk.
dude, tell me that if you're a kid and you're watching this shit, that wouldn't just fucking curse you.
Oh, dude, that would have fucked me up. That would have scarred me for life, man. Yeah, just that freeze frame on his face and then that metal song coming in. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Speaking of freeze frames, the one that I just thought of, that I have on my list here is as we, full on, like, I'm in the realm of full on horror here. Lake, well, you were too, but Lake Mungo. I've mentioned this movie on the podcast before. I believe it was in my top 10 last year when we did our Halloween special last year. There's a moment. Lake Mungo is a 2008, I think, Australian horror film. It's a mockumentary, and it's essentially this teenage girl drowns in a lake, and then basically the mockumentary is about her family sort of piecing together aspects of her life that they didn't realize until after her death, and then also capturing like images of her ghost. So there's a lot of that, like, again, Paranormal Activity type stuff where there's like background things in the background, like fuzzy grainy footage of like, oh, look right there, if you squint you can see a ghost, just that creepy ass shit. But there's a scene in Lake Mungo where basically they find footage of the teenage girl who died. She's running around at night on the shore of the lake with her friends, and then she's got a camera, like a camcorder, and she's just running around with the camcorder. And then in the distance, in the darkness, you can see this figure, and she starts to like, you know, she kind of like looks at it and records it, and the figure kind of slowly like comes up on her,
Mhm.
and then it stops. Like the mockumentary just freeze frames it, and it's her own bloated corpse.
Mhm.
So she's seeing her own ghost. She
Mhm.
hasn't died yet
Wow.
at this point, but she's seeing
Wow.
her own
That's
bloated,
fast.
drowned corpse. And dude,
Yeah.
this is the part of the movie. This is the part of the movie that gave me a fucking heart attack, dude. It freeze frames on this ghost. There's a narrator that's talking over it. They're talking. It cuts to something else. It cuts back to the freeze frame. They're talking. Someone's being interviewed. And then there's like a little pause. And then all of a sudden, the ghost, they speed up the footage. So the ghost comes at the camera and there's this sound effect like, like that. Oh my God, dude. Ugh, dude, that scared me so goddamn bad. Oh my God. Like, ugh. Dude, this movie. If you haven't seen Lake Mungo, go watch Lake Mungo.
I haven't. You've been on that movie with me for a while.
Oh my God, it's so scary, dude. It is definitely one of the scariest movies out there, man.
Hmm.
It's so goddamn creepy. But yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I kind of regret sharing that now because I feel like it's not a huge. It's not like a giant spoiler, I guess, but it feels a little spoilery.
I'll probably forget about it. This is your episode to edit, so that way it will not be in my mind.
No,
I'll forget about it.
yeah. Well, also, yeah, it's more for you. I don't give a shit about our audience, but getting spoiled. But no, I'm just kidding.
I'll forget about it, dude.
I feel like it was worth sharing that because we're talking about scary moments here. So it's like,
by the
fuck.
time that I go to actually watch that thing, I will have forgotten. Like, I'll probably watch this movie like in 3 years.
Yeah, and there's no
like,
content.
Oh, yeah, like Mungo.
Right. Yeah. That's a great point. I don't know. Throw one at me, dude. Scary movie moment. Full on horror, dude.
Full on horror, dude. I mean, damn. I think the number one horror movie that I remember watching, and it had like just like a big impact on me, was that together with my brother and sister. This were that was the trio that we were always making up trouble for ourselves. No, this when we were teenagers. We were just like on a horror feast. Like we're fiending for horror movies. Must have been around this time, like 10 years ago, or even longer. Not even 10 years ago, like 15 years ago. Um, we put on Paranormal Activity 3.
Oh,
We just skipped the other ones. We just watched Paranormal Activity 3. And for those who don't know, and this movie had so much marketing going on around that time. Let me actually look it up to see when the movie came out. The Paranormal Activity movies were such a big thing at that time.
they were huge, man. Dude, I remember watching, while you're looking this up, the trailer, the commercial for Paranormal Activity 3.
That's what I was talking
about. I
was
home alone. Dude, I was like 12, 13, and I was home alone at night, like during October.
Those girls in the mirror, right?
Yes. Oh my God. Oh.
Yep.
Yeah. The Bloody Mary scene. Oh.
Yeah. And then they turn off the light, and then the fucking things there. Yeah, dude. And that's what I'm talking about. Like my siblings and I, were very much aware of that because everybody was affected by that, by all of that. Because it's like after, the Blair Witch Project. When the first Paranormal Activity movie came out, the first Paranormal Activity was such a huge success that it feels weird saying that because it feels like we've been out of that for a while now, like the found footage BS, because it became I feel like for like a decade, horror movies were basically just found footage shit.
Yeah.
As above, so below. Like everything was just like this is just a found footage horror film. But Paranormal Activity kicked that off. Like the first one just was so successful, and then every single one of them after that, until I feel like the fifth or sixth Paranormal Activity movie, were very successful horror films. And this third one just had a humongous marketing campaign. To put this into context, the third Paranormal Activity movie was made for $5 million, and it made $207 million. Like it was, I mean, it was a humongous success.
Humongous.
And these movies, the thing with the Paranormal Activity movies is that they're all out of order. Like the first movie happens, and it's just about this couple, and then the second movie is about the lady in the first movie. It's about her sister and her family, and then the first movie is about those two sisters and their family when they were growing up. So like they're those two sisters and their children, and then her mom and their dad who was like I guess like an amateur filmmaker, and he just was always recording home videos, and then we watch like their lives as kids, and that's the whole premise of the third movie. And the third movie is just about them basically getting into this whole thing of channeling ghosts,
Mm-hmm.
like trying to see ghosts, doing just things that we're not supposed to be doing, and doing all that Bloody Mary stuff, and with the imaginary friend Toby, But the thing is, and I think you and I watched this movie together, right? Like we
Yeah.
watched like first three together. The biggest thing about this movie that got me when I was a kid, like when I was not even a kid, when I was a teenager, and I watched this, like the biggest thing that got me, and at this point I think I was like 13. The biggest thing that got me out of this is that at the end of this movie, like these movies, they always just get ramped up. Things just get ramped up in the last like 20, 50 minutes of these movies,
Mm-hmm.
and the ghost just starts going bananas, starts like pulling the girls out of their beds and dragging them. But the biggest thing is that by the end of the movie, the mom is like frantically looking for her kids, or the kids are just separated. And let me see. This is what it is. Um, Let me see. The mom goes to look for the girls at 1 a.m. in Moore Park. Julie and Dennis are awoken by loud disturbances, and Julie goes to investigate. Julie's the wife. And so it says the dad, when she fails to return, Dennis, the dad, goes to look for her. He finds occult imagery on the walls,
Mm-hmm.
including the symbol from the girl's room, and discovers several women, including Lois, and I think Lois is just like the mom's mom, dressed in black. So it's like the dude just opens the door, and there's like a cult gather.
Yeah,
Like
I remember that.
shit, they did shit out of like fucking Hereditary. It's like he stumbles onto the Hereditary I mean, this could be like a prequel to Hereditary. Like he
Yeah.
stumbles onto like an occult like gathering of all these like old ladies. As he flees back to the house with the woman in pursuit, and finds Julie's limp body levitating above the ground before it's thrown at him. So that specific moment of that movie, dude, fucked with me. It
Yeah.
was so bad.
Oh,
Like that
yeah.
stayed in my mind forever. And then it introduced to me the fear, I guess, of like occultism and of people gathering and doing like fuck shit,
Yeah.
like occult onic shit.
Doing some
Especially like
no-no
people.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, that was a big one. Like that was such a big one. I couldn't tell you. Like through my teenage years, that was like my biggest like horror movie based like nightmare that it kept like recurring for me.
Yeah. Dude, yeah. I mean, I didn't see Paranormal Activity 3 till we watched it together like
I can't believe
years
that, dude.
later. But yeah, and it was like 2011, I think that movie came out. And I remember being at home. I was like watching Friday Night SmackDown, dude, on TV. I was home alone.
Yeah.
My parents were like out. My parents were like out to dinner or
What's
something.
John Cena?
Yeah, my parents were like out to dinner, so I'm by myself, and I'm just like, and it goes to commercial, and it's at some point it's just Paranormal Activity 3, and the commercial ends with that Bloody Mary part, and I was like, oh my god, like, and dude, I was just like curled up on the couch after that, just waiting for my parents to get home, like, please get home, oh my god, like,
Yeah.
I cannot stress enough that I was 12 at that time.
Yeah. I was 13. You were 12 at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Oh, dude, I just sent you a screenshot from Lake Mungo, by the way, dude, of that scene I was talking about. So freaky, dude.
Let me see. Let me open Teams.
Look at that shit.
So I have you open, so I have to reopen like the chat. But my God, dude, my God, like
Yeah.
those were because the funny thing for me is that I got to like a movie like Insidious, I got to like way later. But we can talk about
Yeah.
Insidious too, because Insidious also holds like the second biggest like
Mm.
disturbance in the force of my childhood.
There's a disturbance in the force. Yeah.
Looking at ooh, ooh, it looks terrible. Oh, you shouldn't have sent me that. I'm gonna delete that movie.
Yeah, it's so scary too. Yeah, Lake Mungo's up there, man, for scariest movies. Speaking of up there for scariest movies, my girlfriend and I watched Sinister last night. It was her first viewing, and she really
Mhm.
liked it. She got spooked by it. And yeah, dude, I gotta say, man, I think Sinister. I always gave that movie an 8 out of 10. That one might be a
The
nine,
movie's
man.
great. Yeah, the movie's great.
It might be a 9 for me because I always gave it an 8 because of the like dumb jump scares it does like in the third act. But man, I was watching it and I'm like they don't take away too much. This is still so goddamn creepy, man.
That's a great movie.
You know what's great in that movie that I noticed too, and that director was really great. Like he had a lot of attention to detail in that movie.
Mhm.
Um, he the way they lit that movie is amazing because it's like there's so many scenes where the main character played by Ethan Hawke is like sitting at his desk or something and the desk is all like well lit and the rest of the room is just pitch black. So he's just on this like island of light in an ocean of pitch darkness. And so the whole movie, you're just like, and he's watching all this like creepy ass shit, watching these tapes, trying to piece together the mystery. And so the whole movie, your eyes are just looking in the background, like looking for that fucking demon. You're just like, where is it?
Mhm.
Where is it? Like, um, there's a scene. You know what's funny? The scene in that movie that I think gets a lot of flack, and that I would say brings it down a little bit, is the scene where he's walking around the house with the baseball bat.
Dude, even when I first watched the movie, I was like, "Oh, this is whack."
Yeah, he's
Like
walking.
that's kind of wacky.
Yeah, he's walking around the house with a baseball bat, and these little ghost kids are sort of following him around in the background in slow motion.
That's a wacky. That's a wacky scene. That always brings the movie down for me. I've seen that movie two to three times, and it brings the movie down every time.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? I never thought of it before. I think that Scott Derrickson was trying to recreate. I have a theory. I think he was trying to recreate a scene from a Japanese horror movie from the 2000s called Kairo. I think the American title is Pulse, if I'm not mistaken. But there's a scene in that movie. I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen this scene, and
I think I've seen that movie.
it's widely regarded as one of the scariest movie scenes of all time, where
Let me see.
the dude is in the basement and he hides behind a couch while this female ghost is like walking through the shadows at him. And she's sort of moving like in that uncanny, like slow motion way, like she's
I'm
underwater.
pretty sure I've seen that movie, dude. Let me go to my letterbox. I'm pretty sure I've seen that fucking movie. I think I've either seen Pulse or Shudder. I know there's like two like Japanese movies like that.
Shudder's the one where I haven't seen Shudder, but I know what it is. It's like the one with the camera and they keep capturing the ghost on the camera or whatever. But
I've seen Pulse. I've seen it. I have it marked as watch.
Oh, you have seen it. So do you remember that scene where the female ghost is like walking toward that guy and they like it's in like that dark basement and then he like hides behind the couch?
Everybody that I follow on Letterboxd give that movie either an 8 or a 9, and I gave it a 6. I didn't like that movie very much. Like I thought I thought the movie fell apart like by the end, but I think I do remember what you're talking about, although kind of vaguely. I saw this movie a couple of years ago.
Yeah. I think that Scott Derrickson was trying to recreate that scene in Sinister with the little kid ghosts. I think where he went wrong was the scene is overlit, so you can see that they're just kids. And whereas in the Japanese horror film Kairo, the woman is like almost completely obscured by darkness.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. I'm looking at an image of it. Yes, I've seen this. That was very scary.
Yeah, that scene. I've heard that the movie's like okay, but that scene is like
the movie's okay. Like I'm actually looking like at a GIF of that scene. Yeah, dude, I remember that scene. That scene's actually terrifying. But the movie is just okay. The movie's actually like I said to you, I thought the movie like fell apart by the end.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but Sinister still got it, man. Like I was watching that with my girlfriend last night, and I've seen that movie several times now, and I mean that movie raises my blood pressure, dude. Like that movie, like
Makes you have heart palpitations.
it kind of does, dude. I mean, you know, you're watching that, and I just love the procedural elements of that movie too. When he's you know, piecing together the mystery and everything. But this episode is about scary scenes. So Sinister, the scenes that the scene in Sinister that probably freaks me out the most. I don't know. I'm trying to think because there's a good number of them that are pretty freaking freaky. You know what freaked me out in Sinister quite a bit is the kids when at the end of the movie. And by the way, so this is what we're going to do for this episode. We're going to have, I'll put this in the description. We're going to have timestamps for each movie we talk about. I'm going to put timestamps in. So if you see on the bar, there's a movie that you don't want spoiled or something, just skip over it. But in Sinister, at the end, he gets another box of tapes or whatever, or the box of tapes like reappears at his house, and then there's another tape in there that says extended cuts or whatever, and he puts that tape on, and all of them are basically after the family in each tape is murdered. Then the ghost child enters frame, looks at the camera, and then puts their index finger over their lips and goes shh, and then disappears. That shit's creepy, man.
Yeah, no, that shit's creepy, dude.
And then at the very end, when all the kids, so the main character's kid has finished killing the family, and then she's standing in front of the projector screen, and all the ghost kids are standing there looking back at her, and then she kind of cocks her head, and you see the demon standing behind her, and then all the kids like run away down the hall, and then there's like a jump cut where like as they're running away it skips frames, so they like skip a few frames and then disappear. That shit freaked me out. There's something really uncanny about those ghost kids and those scenes.
Dude, this is the only time of the year that I watch horror movies. Like,
yeah,
I feel like I had been on like a horror movie, you know, for years of us living together. I had been just suffering through all these horror movies. Because you're a maniac for these horror movies. But you know, you talk about Sinister and all that stuff now. I have like a smile on my face. I'm just like, man, I'm so glad I haven't seen that movie in years.
Yeah.
I have no plan on rewatching any horror movie that I've seen. I have no plan on rewatching. Unless we explicitly go like we're just gonna do it for the show.
Yeah.
Like dude, like fucking like the Wailing. I don't want to rewatch that fucking movie.
Oh yeah, the Wailing, man. Oh,
I don't want to watch any. I don't want to watch Gungeon Haunted Asylum. I don't want to watch any of these movies. I saw them once. I don't want to see them ever, dude.
Yeah.
Scary ass fucking movies, man.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I will say, like, when I watch some of these, especially these new horror movies, sometimes I watch these and I'm just the newer ones and I'm like, Jesus, man, they're so grim, dude. Like, I'm watching Sinister last night and I'm like, this is horrible. I mean, they're just like, it just ends with the family getting killed and then like, you know. But I think what's great about Sinister, before we move on to more scariest scenes or whatever, what's great in Sinister is Ethan Hawke's character. I actually thought they did a great job because, because I think what's great about that character is that he's so afraid of like losing his success because he's a true crime writer and he's kind of had his 15 minutes, but he wants like another hit book. And he really, you know, obviously at that house,
family into that house.
Yeah, and then he finds all this fucked up stuff and he chooses not to report it to the police. Like there's a scene where he actually calls the cops and then he's like just hangs up because he realizes like, no, I want to keep this to myself and write a book. You know, and he just continually like has opportunities to like get his family to safety, but he's so obsessed with regaining his success that, you know, he keeps putting his family and himself in harm's way. And I thought that aspect of the movie was fantastic, and you can kind of empathize
Mhm.
with them because you're like, oh man, yeah, you want another great book, like especially as an author myself.
Yeah,
And
it's a cautionary tale.
it really is. And I know Scott Derrickson told Ethan Hawke to watch The Shining in preparation
Mhm.
for that role, and you do see some of that Jack Nicholson character like come out in his performance. Yeah, it's so good, man. But
Yeah.
dude, hit me with another one, man. You were gonna bring up Insidious, or
Yeah, dude, I'm gonna cap it off for me with my peak horrors. The second like runner up for this in my teenage years was Insidious. Specifically for those who have seen Insidious, it was the scene in the film um where this is after kind of like the demonic possession stuff starts happening in the house. And the mom, I think she just takes out the trash, right? She just goes to take out the trash.
yeah,
And while she's taking out the trash, the record player starts playing, and it's like this fucking like tiptoe through the window or whatever the hell that fucking song is.
yeah,
Demonic song. Like,
yeah,
that's a cursed song. Um, and then she goes in to see what's going on, and she just sees this like little person like dancing,
mm,
and it's like a child. But I remember when I saw that movie, I thought there was like a little person and not like a kid.
mm,
There's like a little person. And dude, that scene devastating.
yeah,
That scene is so creepy, dude. Of just like this
yeah,
like ghost, and it dances in like the most like unorthodox like way. It's just like doing this like weird little dance. The fact that that happens out of nowhere, and it's like this weird daytime scene that you're just not even expecting, just frustrated me, dude. That to me, that was like the most horrifying thing about that movie. Not even the photographs with the old lady thing at the end. Like that was like the most
hmm
terrifying thing about that movie. That's what stuck with me when I watched that film. Um,
same here.
and then for peak,
That's the
for peak,
scene. That's the scene. Just about it. That's the scene
yeah,
that I think about. Like, there's other scary scenes from Insidious, but that scene is the one that if I think about that, like just now, I'm like, well, I'm kind of like looking over my shoulder. Like that
yeah,
is the scene from that movie that it's so unsettling. Where the
yes,
mom and the way they shoot it too is great because you're looking at it from the mom's point of view. Like the foreground is the house, then the middle
mhm,
ground is the window, and then the background is the little boy doing that little jig.
mhm.
Oh god.
It's terrifying. I mean, you're saying that it's giving me goosebumps, dude. That's
Ugh.
terrifying.
And
It's
then
terrifying.
you could spot him in the background right before that too.
When she's like coming, like just like walking with the trash, that he's right in like the closet. He's like in a closet.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
Terrifying.
I think I said this when we talked about Insidious before, but there's I remember my poor mother, my mom hates horror movies. And one year I came home from college for fall break and I was like, let's watch Insidious, the family. And my poor mom had to watch Insidious. And my mom spotted him. Like the mom walks by and he's like standing in the corner, like you said, and my mom goes, "What was that? What was that in the background?" And
Really? Oh wow.
yeah,
Oh jeez, dude.
ugh, God,
Jeez. No, Insidious. That was so frustrating. That was a big one for me. Like that was literally the second one, but underneath like Paranormal Activity. And then now, like as an adult, the peak movie, and I talked about this on our last horror special. Um, the peak film that has terrified me as an adult, and I probably will not watch that movie again, is The Wailing.
mm,
Korean horror film from 2016. Um, Extremely underrated. People don't talk about that movie enough.
mm-hmm,
Um, Specifically, and again, spoilers for The Wailing. Skip to the next section on the timestamps if you don't want to hear spoilers. This is the ending of the film. Um, the devil, dude. The reveal of the devil. Like when that one guy goes into like that cave,
yeah,
and that dude's just there with all. And he fucking takes those photographs on him, and then he just becomes this like a demon, dude.
yeah,
Like that was terrible, terrible.
yeah.
terrible. When that happened, I was like, "Oh my god." That dude, I couldn't sleep that night. I had nightmares after that. And that movie stayed with me for like a solid like 2 weeks. Like, dude, terrible. I've not been scared from anything like that since then. Like that was terrible. I don't want that in my life. I want
Yeah.
to be scared like, dude.
Yeah.
Like fuck.
The scene that I think of from The Wailing, as I'm remembering it, that scene's scary, but another scene with that same demon, like before he's in his full demon form and he just has like the red eyes or whatever. It's like an extreme low shot where the camera's like on the ground and then he like
Mhm.
crawls out of the woods. It's like
Oh yeah. Oh
early in the
yeah.
morning and then he like kind of like crawls
Yeah.
toward the camera. Oh fuck,
Yeah.
dude. Yeah, The Wailing was scary because it was like it was kind of all I think I talked about it on another episode, but it's like to me my interpretation of that movie, and I think it holds water because the movie does even begin with a Bible verse like before the movie starts um on the screen, but like I think it's sort of an allegory for the book of Revelation in the Bible where you have like Christ and then the Antichrist, and the people who follow the Antichrist are only following him because they think he's the Christ. And
Mhm.
so you have this weird scenario where it's like, well, that's kind of messed up. Like you don't know who to put your faith in. So and that
Yeah,
they do that
that's
in The
what that movie.
Wailing.
That's what the entire movie's about. And that's the thing. That movie
Yeah.
throws off so much where you really don't know who's good and who's bad. Like I said, the woman. It said the priest that he pays to do the exorcism. Is the Japanese guy really a bad guy?
Hmm.
It's like it just throws you for such a loop. How they edited and shot and wrote that movie, it just throws you for such a loop where you really don't know who to like believe in. And
Yeah.
it's terrible when you are like the audience member, you're just like, who is who and what's what, and like who's bad. And that's exactly the situation that the main character is in, and his family's like lives depend on him making the right decisions.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and they're all
Terrible.
telling him like, "No, that's the evil one. No, that's
Exactly.
the evil
Yeah,
one." And you're
exactly.
like, "Fuck, who do I believe?" Like,
Terrible, 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 right? Insanely terrible. And I mean, the movie has like a grim ending.
yeah.
Like that's a really grim ending. But you're 100% right. I did after I watched the movie, I did so much reading on it to see what the director had to say, what other people had to say, and your reading of it is like on the money. I believe 100% is what that movie's about.
Thanks, man. Time check. How much longer you want to go for, dude?
Dude, you wrap us up. Bring us to an end with your horror experience.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there were a
How
few
long you
more.
take us?
Yeah, I mean, I'm good on time. There were a few more I wanted to discuss, but I don't know if you have like a time, like a stop time you want to go to.
I would say for me, like a hard stop is probably like 9:40, just because I don't want to keep drawn out before work.
Yeah. No, I got you. All right, cool. That sounds good, man. Dude, you know what I was going to bring up was the Zodiac movie.
The David Fincher movie.
Yeah, the basement scene.
Yeah,
You remember that?
yeah, yeah. I remember that. Oh, with fucking Gyllenhaal, right?
Yeah, yeah. That
Yeah,
scene, dude, that's a scary ass scene right
that's
there,
scary. That's
man.
fucking scene.
Oh my god.
That's like it's kind of like the peak of that movie too, honestly,
Yeah.
for me.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a good movie, but that's the scene that I really remember. And like, what's interesting, David Fincher plays with this idea a lot, the idea of like politeness and not wanting to be not wanting to be impolite is what ultimately kind of puts you in danger. Because
Yeah,
in Zodiac, like, Jake Gyllenhaal is at this creepy dude's house, kind of getting some information about the Zodiac killer. And at this point in the movie, no one knows who the Zodiac killer is. At this point in
yeah.
history, as we record this podcast, no one knows who the Zodiac killer
No
was.
one knows who the fucking Zodiac killer is. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
watched a movie recently where somebody gets into a car and they ask, like, "Are you guys the Zodiac killers?" And it's like a '70s movie.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that tells you like the impact that the whole thing had at the time. Even in movies, just randomly, like it was
Yeah.
just kind of thrown in there.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, so Jake Gyllenhaal is in the house of this creepy dude. He's trying to figure, he's gathering clues. And the creepy guy says like, "Oh, I can't remember what they're looking at. They're looking at like sketches or like some kind of paperwork." And the creepy guy kind of walks toward this doorway and he goes, I
Mhm.
have some more. Oh yeah, I have more of what you're looking for. They're in the basement, and he like flicks on the
Mhm.
light, and like Jake Gyllenhaal goes, most people don't have basements in this state, and the guy's like, well, I do. Come on down,
Yeah.
and you're kind of like, don't
Like, what's going
go,
on? Yeah, exactly. It's like screaming, like, don't do it.
But what's interesting, I
Yeah.
heard someone bring this up one time. They were like, the thing is, if you were in Jake Gyllenhaal's position, where you're just at this guy's house, he's invited you in and he's helping you with this case, you probably would go,
Yeah.
just to be polite. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you
The
definitely
killer
have.
of all politeness.
Yeah, and so then Jake Gyllenhaal follows him down into the basement, and it's this creepy ass basement with shelves,
Mhm.
cobwebs, wooden beams on the ceiling, and and then at one point, like he just crosses the creepiness threshold where it's like Jake Gyllenhaal's just like, I gotta get out of here, and he like runs up the stairs, he runs to
Yeah.
the door, and then he
He
can't
just
get the
leaves.
door unlocked.
Yeah.
And then the guy has to come to the door and unlock it for him. And then
Yeah.
Jake Gyllenhaal like runs out, man. That
Yeah.
scene, dude, that scene gave me goosebumps the first time I
That's
watched
the
it.
best scene of that movie, man.
Yeah.
That's the best scene of that movie. But yeah, no, that scene's terrifying. Sadly, Ted Cruz goes unpunished.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Dude, he's still out there getting away with it, man.
Yeah, still out
God,
there, dude. He's like,
what kind
he's
of
still
a
out there.
what kind of a world is this where we had a former serial killer in the primaries, dude?
Yeah, right.
What would you
Damn.
give Zodiac on a scale of 1 to 10? I gave that movie an 8.
I give it a 7.
Yeah,
I give it a 7 just because I thought it was kind of slow.
yeah,
Like, for those listening, my I basically have I have a counting in my head where like I basically rate movies from 1 to 8, and everything that goes above 8 are just like personal favorites.
yeah.
But anything that I give an 8 to is just anything I think is great or like with like very few flaws that I like still like think everything else just kind of overcomes it. I think Zodiac is just kind of flawed in that I just think it's too long and too slow. Like I got bored with that movie a little bit.
Well, yeah, and the problem is with that movie is that it's like we already know the spoiler. The Zodiac killer was never caught, so
That, yeah,
it's so anticlimactic. Like already that he's not going to be caught. But I think Fincher did the best he possibly could with that biography,
yes,
or whatever you want to call it.
yeah. But it's dude, it's 2 hours and 40 minutes, and it's like, I mean, geez, bro, you could have caught like 20 minutes off this thing.
Yeah. Speaking of David Fincher, I guess I'll bring this up. Another one we've both seen, the movie Seven.
Oh, 7.
A lot of people will mention the sloth scene.
Mm-hmm.
I would mention that one. However, I think the scene that horrifies me the most in Seven at this point is the strap-on scene, or the aftermath rather of the strap-on scene. Do you remember that?
Describe it for me. I have a vague image of it.
Basically, it's like Morgan Freeman goes to interview this guy in an interrogation room, and the guy claims that like the killer forced him at gunpoint to have sex with a woman, and he made him put on a strap on with a dagger instead of a dildo on it.
Yes, yes,
And then and then at the end of the scene
yes.
ends with him, and like I think
Say no more.
yeah, and I read that the actor like actually drenched himself in ice water and stuff, because in the scene he's like shivering and he's just like, oh, and then of course the scene ends with him just going like, I fucked her. It's like,
Yeah,
oh fuck, dude, like, ugh. That one gets me.
yeah. Oof. Yeah, that's one of those movies, dude, where it's like every time I rewatch 7, I'm always just like, oh, this is disturbing.
Yeah.
And really graphic. Like they really shows you all that bullshit, man.
It's a
But yeah,
dirty movie.
yes.
Seven
Yeah.
was how is Seven not considered a horror film, but Silence of the Lambs is? I've never understood that.
Silence of the Lambs, really?
Yeah, Silence of the Lambs is considered like across
I guess
the board
I
a
think
horror film.
they would both have to be there. Like I feel like they would literally both have to be there.
I think, dude. I think if you're I think if you're gonna call Silence of the Lambs a horror movie, you have to call Seven a horror movie.
Yeah, it's a horror crime film for sure. That's what it says.
Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Yeah. 7, but no one ever, if you look up 7, it's not going to say horror. I'm telling you.
No, it's just crime thriller.
I've never understood that, dude. I've never understood that. 'Cause there's way
Yeah.
more horrifying shit and like graphic. There's more horror elements in 7 than there are in Silence of the
Hopefully
Lambs.
that's a crime horror. It, like on the Wikipedia thing, it says crime thriller, but on the Google like kind of like breakdown of it with like the poster, it says crime horror.
Okay.
It's a little bit of it. I think there's a little bit of it for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. What was I going to say about 7? 7 was really influential because then that's what led to like the whole wave of like Saw films and like Hostel and movies that looked like that, you know?
Well, all those movies are cursed. All those are just terrible, terrible things to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just gross. Dude, yeah, I a
Yeah.
couple of weeks ago I was on a plane ride and I had several movies downloaded and I started watching Saw 2 and dude, I got like
Mhm.
3 minutes in and I was like, this sucks, dude. I don't want to watch
It's
this.
just it's literally what like I mean it became known as you know torture porn, and that's literally what it is. Like
Yeah.
it's just like do you get some kind of weird satisfaction out of watching people just get tortured? You know, there's a scene in which somebody has to jump into like a pool of used needles. Like
Yeah.
I mean, come on, bro. I mean, come on, bro. Come
Yeah.
on, come on.
It's just
You can't watch that shit.
yeah, it's all just off-putting and like the camera work on top of it, like to boot. That's just the shit icing on the shit cake where like the camera's like swirling around and doing all this weird like jump cutting. And it's just like
Mhm.
everything from top to bottom is just off-putting. And I'm like, I'm not watching this.
Yeah.
I watched something else. I was like, fuck this. I don't want to watch
Yeah,
this.
no, it's just like an attack on the senses. Like that's yeah, you can't be watching that fucking shit.
That's a great way to describe it. Attack on the
An
senses.
attack on the senses. Yeah, dude, it is. It is an attack on the senses. What is your peak? Or have you already gone through it? Like your peak horror experience?
I think, yeah, I think the Lake Mungo thing was probably a peak
Really?
horror experience. That,
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, like, let me think. Hereditary, we talked about.
Yeah.
Just as a movie, the whole movie, that was like a peak horror experience.
Mhm.
Oddity last week, I watched that last weekend. I mean, that had a peak horror movie experience in there. But if you're talking about the peak,
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, I would say it's between Lake Mungo, probably the little boy dancing in Insidious, or
Yeah,
the
for sure.
demon appearing behind the dad freaked me out as well.
Yeah.
And the ending as well with the photographs and everything.
Yeah.
And then I would say probably like the Grudge girl coming up out of the bed sheets. That put like that pit,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that sharp pit you get in your stomach. Not even like necessarily a jump scare, but just like that pit that just goes
Mhm.
boom. Where it's just
Mhm.
like, oh fuck, like
Mhm.
I got that from the Grudge girl, like popping up from under the blanket, and doing that gargling thing, and then
Yeah, dude, that gargling thing, that
ugh,
thing, dude, that thing,
yeah,
oof, that thing, that oof, ah, oof, oof, oh man, oh, yeah, that was unfortunate.
yeah,
That man, that traumatized. Like if my sister was here, she would tell you that traumatized her. Like that traumatized my sister. That's a, I mean, phew,
yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Those Grudge movies are insane, man.
Those Japanese movies, man.
Yeah,
Those
J
Japanese
horror
movies.
is nuts.
Like The Ring, you know, fucking that movie, Pulse, The Grudge. Like Japanese people, man, they really know how to put together like a horror film. Because I mean, they those movies are just disturbed.
Hmm.
You know, it's just so disturbing, like what comes out of those fucking movies. Like the only American movie that has come to match it in disturbance is like Hereditary. You
Hmm.
know, but those Asian films are so fucking disturbing with their horror, man.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. Speaking of J horror, and you mentioned The Ring, yeah, The Ring. That was another like electric jolt moment for me where it wasn't necessarily even jump scare jolt, but that just like that pit in your stomach, that like pit bursting in your stomach, I guess.
Mhm.
Just that sharp like burn in your stomach when you're just like, oh fuck, like, um that I remember that happened with the American Ring, the I saw her face scene. I think people listening probably know that. Do
Mhm.
you remember that scene where it's
Mhm.
someone
Mhm.
describing like how she found her daughter dead, and it's like I saw her face, and then it just does this sharp cut to the girl like in the closet and
Mhm.
dead,
Yes.
and it just goes like, "Ting!" It's like, oh fuck. And oddly enough, man, another one for me, and this is going to sound kind of funny, but another like peak horror moment where I don't think the movie is like perfect or by any means. I actually think the movie's like fine overall, but a moment in it is the movie Malignant. The reveal of the when the woman's like watching the tape of the girl like in the hospital,
Oh yeah, I remember
and then
that,
the
dude. I
camera
remember
pans
that.
around her
I
and it
remember that.
reveals she's got that parasitic twin growing out of her
Yeah.
back. I remember I had that like again that like sharp pit in my stomach when that happened, just like, oh
Me, and
fuck.
your dad watched that movie.
Yeah, yeah. That
My
was another
God,
one,
man.
man. Where like the
My God, I
movie,
remember that. I remember that like it was yesterday. But also,
yeah.
the movie also made me laugh so much. 'Cause I remember when she like threw that chair across the room. Um, but yeah, that was a freaky movie for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me see. Let me see what else I
Freak,
got here
freak.
as we
And it's
wrap
funny
up.
because dude, I was looking at the poster for that movie today. Today I was looking at the poster for that film. So it's funny you bring it up again.
Yeah. Malignant, it's actually a great poster.
It's a great poster. It's a great poster.
I'm going to rapid fire a few, and then if you want to rapid fire a few as well, or if you're done, that's fine too. But I'll rapid fire
Yeah,
a few here just for completion. Um,
yeah.
I
Go for it.
have here The Shining, the ending scene where it reveals that he's like in the photograph from the 20s or
Mhm,
whatever.
mhm,
And then the bear scene, dude, with the bear costume, that freaked me
mhm.
out, man.
Yeah,
That freaked the hell out of me.
yeah.
Um,
I agree with both of those.
yeah. I've got the Exorcist, the specifically the Pazuzu face showing up, and then the tongue scene. I think this was actually a deleted scene from the movie because they thought it was too disturbing, and they were right. Where it's a lengthened, an extended version of the spider walk scene where she spider walks down the stairs, and then she like flicks her tongue out and like
Mhm.
starts chasing like the mom through the house, like flicking her tongue, trying to lick
I've
her.
seen that. I've
Oh,
seen that just like as like the on YouTube, like the deleted scene. I'll add to that the part where she's like the kind of general mutilation part of that movie.
oh,
That every time that happens in that movie, it just completely just makes me like shrivel.
yeah,
Like it, dude. That oof, when she's just kind of stabbing herself down there with that cross. Oh my God,
oh,
that's terrible. It's terrible. It's
yeah.
terrible.
They were, yeah. Those motherfuckers. William Friedkin is crazy, man.
Yeah.
Um, okay, continue to rapid fire. I mentioned The Ring. I mentioned Hereditary. The movie Get Out, the coagula scene where he's like in the tied to the chair. He's strapped to the chair, and they're
Mm,
making him watch that
mm,
documentary about
mhm,
them, like what they're doing there, basically their
mhm.
experiments. Freaky, unsettling, man.
I
Um,
never think about that. I never think about that scene.
that scene freaked me out, man. I think I always find like old VHS documentaries kind of have like creepy for some reason. I don't know what it is,
Yeah.
but and of course in that scene there's obviously some dark overtones as to what's happening, so there's that added onto it. So that always freaked me out, man. And then I got the American Werewolf in London transformation scene, specifically when he's
Really, I just thought that was cool, mostly than horrifying.
so the part that freaks me out a little bit about that scene is not the actual transformation. I agree with you on that, but then they cut to like that Mickey Mouse figurine, and it's like watching him transform.
Mhm,
That part's weirdly unsettling to me. Um,
mm.
and then I've got the Barbarian tunnel scene. Like Barbarian sucks, but the first
Yeah, but
act of that
yeah,
movie is so
yeah,
damn scary. Which
Yeah.
which makes me more mad. It's like if the movie was just shitty overall, it'd be one thing. But when you have like a home slam dunk, grand slam home run in the first, half, and then it just devolves into garbage, that was such a shame. Because that Barbarian, when they find that room with that camera set up and then the tunnels, so unsettling, so much dread, dude.
Yeah.
I've got the Longlegs photo scene. Freaked me out. I think I mentioned that photograph scene. Anyone who's seen the movie probably knows what I'm talking about. The final shot of Skinamarink.
Yeah. Oh, of course. That has to be there. That has to be. That's such a terrifying. That's terrifying.
Oh, fuck, dude. Yeah, chills down my spine. I'll add to that.
That's terrifying. That to me, that is like an all-time scare for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's interesting is a commenter on YouTube said this, and I kind of agree with this. They call that moment is sort of the opposite of a jump scare, and it's what this commenter referred to as a quote-unquote show scare, where there's no loud noise, no jump. You're just forced to look at something for a long period of time. And I was like, that's interesting, man. I think more horror films should do that.
Well, and there's also the place where that puts you at, man. Like, and I remember that I said this when we reviewed that film, and it is that the movie just does such a good job, and like you said last week to Jack, that maybe a little bit too good of a job at putting you in this kind of mindset of these children, you know, and it's like when you're just these kids, and if the commendation that I gave that movie, and I think the reason why I gave it a 5 or a 6 instead of like anything lower than that, was because it pays off at the end with that shot of just this impression of being a child, having spent the whole day, night, or whatever, just kind of trying to be awake, hoping that your parents gonna return, watching cartoons, eating stuff you're not supposed to, and being terrified, just being like, when are my fucking parents going to be back?
Yeah.
And then getting in bed, not being able to see jack shit.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you're looking at a face that just kind of looks like your mom, But it's like so ubiquitous. Like, I mean, dude, that moment has stayed with me from that movie.
Yeah. 100% agree. I mean, hats off to the guy who made that. I hope he makes some more stuff.
Dude, 100%. Like, that guy has to make more. That guy has a mind of his own.
Yeah.
He should do more things for sure.
Yeah. I'll add to the short film that Skinamarink is sort of like based off of that he made. It's called Heck on YouTube.
I watched it off of your recommendation. I did check it out.
Yeah, and there's a similar show, quote unquote, show scare in that one where like there's like a face at the bottom of the stairs looking up at the top step. Oh my god. It's very similar. I would say it's like just as creepy as the ending scene in Skinamarink, but I would say there's more like art and craft to the ending scene in Skinamarink. But all right, rapid fire. I'm almost done here. I put the nurse scene in The Exorcist 3. I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen the scene.
I've seen the scene.
Oh.
I've seen the scene.
Fuck, dude. God damn. We mentioned Gonjiam Haunted Asylum. We have a full review of that from last year, so go watch that if you guys want us to expand on that. I've got The Fly, the full transformation at the end when all of his skin comes off and you realize that's what's been growing under him the entire movie.
Yeah.
Bone Tomahawk, you know the scene. If you've seen it, you know it. Split down the middle, baby.
I don't want to think about it.
Yeah, fuck that. The Event Horizon blood orgy scene. Insanely unsettling and disturbing. Yeah, you haven't seen Event Horizon, right?
No, I have not.
I watched that for the first time this year, like 6 months ago, maybe. I think I mentioned it on the pod, but there's a scene, there's a blood orgy scene in that movie where there's like footage of the crew after they went to hell. Oh my god. Audition, the amputation scene. God damn. And the blanket scene too. And oh God.
I've seen too many of these movies, dude. I can't believe I've seen all these fucking movies except for Event Horizon. But goddamn, bro.
Yeah. Oh, I know. And then we mentioned the Grudge, the bed scene, and the attic scene, the Kairo ghost scene. The last two, final two, Salem's Lot.
Not seen.
Yeah, so not the one that came out this year. I haven't seen that. I heard it's bad anyway. The original miniseries from the 70s, directed by Tobe Hooper. Fantastic. Great October watch. There is a scene in that movie, if you've seen, or that miniseries, if you've seen it, I'm going to refer to it as the window scene. I'll leave it at that. And then finally, last, not a great movie, but a very scary scene in that movie, Terrified, with the little boy corpse sitting at the table, unmoving.
Oh yeah,
having
that's
walked
right.
to the house from the grave. Yeah.
Yeah.
Screw that scene, dude. Oh my God.
Dude, great fucking picks. You really came full throttle with all these like horrifying moments from all these movies.
Yeah, I spent like 10 minutes yesterday, like 20 minutes yesterday, just jotting all these down, and I was like, God damn! At some point, I know I'm gonna have to just rapid fire these.
Yeah, because you got a shit ton. I feel like I got like 10. You have like 30.
Yeah.
Look at all these moments. And the funny thing is that you and I, especially for those movies that we've seen together, like Terrified and Audition and Tomahawk and Skinamarink, like all those movies, the exact same moments you mentioned are the moment that fucked away from those movies.
Yeah.
Everybody, thank you for joining us. I hope you guys enjoyed this introduction. I know we did Hereditary last week, but this is the proper introduction for this horror spectacular that we're doing. Again, thank you for joining us, and stick with us through this spooky season. If you love horror movies, then we're going to challenge you. I have a really nice one for next week. It's a Japanese film, so there's that. It's by the same director that made Pulse. I know you haven't seen Pulse, but this is a movie that neither you or I have seen, and it's like a critically acclaimed horror film. Let's watch Cure from 1997.
Okay. I don't know if I know this one. Cure, like a cure for a disease?
Yeah,
that's how it's
Cure,
spelled.
1997 Japanese horror film by Kiyoshi Kurosawa.
Got it. Let's do it, man. Cure next week, everybody. Happy early Halloween, and thank you for joining us on the Halloween special. Happy spooky season, everybody.
Next time on Film Tangents. See you.